Hi everyone, this podcast is once again sponsored by Robots Ruin My Life. Be sure to use the code RoboCast at checkout for 25% off your order. The code is actually going away now. So if you want to save some money on your order from that website, please be sure to use the code. I have the results for the giveaway as well that we were running on the channel. If you saw it, I did make a post about it on our social pages and of course on YouTube as well. The winners are from the UK, the Seaborg, and from the US, it is Over-Engineered Lego Robots on YouTube. So, congratulations to both of you. If you can get in touch with us via our Facebook or Twitter pages, we'll try and get your stuff sent out to you as soon as we can. Enjoy the podcast.
Hi, this is Jamison Go from Team SawBlaze, and you're listening to the RoboCast.
Hello everyone, my name is Sam Elliott64 and welcome back to the RoboCast with myself, Steve the AmericanKilljoy, World of Woodrow and DavidofSmeg, and we are joined, it is our great pleasure to be joined by this season's champion, Jamison Go from SawBlaze. Jamison, welcome back. It's been over a year since we had you on. I think the last time we spoke to you was for the Mad Catter fight, all those fights ago.
Yeah, I mean, time flies. I can already remember how long ago that was exactly. But I'm happy to be back. I really enjoy watching the RoboCast. So yeah, glad to be a part of it.
It's very kind of you to say.
I missed the last one too, and I remember that because I remember you said hi, and I'm like, shoot, I should have been there, and I felt terrible. I've only missed one this time.
We had Mike on for that one, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah, man, that's such a
Yeah,
long time
I
ago.
wasn't even doing this at that time.
Who are you?
I don't know. I believe I'm you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Normally,
That checks
Probably in the
out.
same place at the same time.
Normally at this stage, we would discuss your schedule for the season. However, I've got a feeling it's going to be a very long episode, so we're going to skip that.
Yeah.
And suffice to say, you've been kicking ass and taking names except for one fight, which I think surprised everyone, which was the Hydra fight.
Yeah.
Did it surprise you how it went? That particular fight in particular, Jambo, was that a surprise for you how one-sided it was in the end?
I'm not completely surprised of it. I mean, going into it, the team knew that it was going to be a difficult fight. I mean, you can look at pre-season seedings if you want to. I mean, they reflect pretty well, I think, the feelings and thoughts of the committee and then a lot of the fans as well. But on paper for sure, this is like one of those low man wins games. So it's going to be 100-0 or for somebody. And if they get underneath us, our whole strategy is basically out the window. And if we get underneath them, we'll probably be able to do a pretty good amount of damage and disable them. Any advantage will probably snowball from there if we can get a hit. So luckily for them, they were the lower robot, and there's not much you can do after that. So they proceeded to split us a lot. We recognizing the condition of the tips of our forks throughout the fight, we could actually get underneath them, and we're pressing that probability basically that one of these chances we're going to be able to get underneath Hydra and deliver a hit. It doesn't, it seems like their drivetrain, you get a good hit in somewhere, you might be able to slow it down and disrupt his driving enough that you can take advantage of it. That was apparent in future fights, as we saw.
Mm-hmm.
One good hit really messes things up for Hydra. So we were playing the probability game in that sense, that we can get underneath them once, get them far enough in, and then get that advantage. But one of the flips in, let's say like 30 seconds to 1 minute mark, the one that landed on the forks and that's basically wrenched it downwards enough that it raised a piece of metal underneath it. And that made the maneuverability aspects really difficult. So even though we were able to get underneath them maybe like 3 times, we were unable to push inwards like we usually do because we didn't have traction on one wheel, and it made it impossible to take advantage of any chance that we had. So yeah, they basically took it. In my opinion, they took it 100-0 in favor of them. yeah, there's not too much to say. I think that if we fought them again after our modifications, it would be a little bit different.
I was going to say, I won't bring it up in a bit later on because obviously there was a real possibility you could have ended up fighting Hydra again.
Oh yeah,
in the tournament. But we'll save that for a little bit later on. We have scoured the internet for listener questions. We had so many.
Yeah.
And if I don't answer your question, I'm really sorry. We had so many, and if we were here answering all of them, I think we'd be here till next season.
It's a tiny bit of the grand final effect and also the champion effect. So that, you know, people just want to ask them. They want to ask the questions. So
absolutely, we're also going to split them across the episode between the post winning the championship and pre winning the championship. So let's start off with a kind of a two-part question coming from Team Tiny Hands on YouTube, and they ask what inspired the dragon theming in SawBlaze in the first place. And Milk Buns, which is a great name, asks what type of dragon would SawBlaze be for research.
Oh wow. Well, I guess I'll answer the what kind of dragon it would be. I have no idea how many different kinds of like comparing it to pop culture dragons or something. Like, is this like a how to train your dragon, or is this kind of like the Hungarian horntail Harry Potter kind of dragon?
Yeah.
Or somewhere or Trogdor dragon.
There you go.
Maybe the Trogdor dragon. Burninating all the robots.
Where's the big arm? I guess
it has one big arm.
It has got a big arm. It's right here. It's there. There's the big arm.
It doesn't need the muscliness.
The
it's
arm
already
is
kind
also
of
the
baked
neck
in
at the same time.
It's like coming out of its neck right there.
Yeah.
So I think maybe the closest answer we're going to get is a Trogdor dragon.
There you go.
Where did the dragon theme come from? I think that at the time where we were proposing all the variety of weapons and gimmicks, I don't want to say gimmicks because they're all very real, but all the different things that we were applying for in the season 2 of BattleBots, we wanted a weird shape, mission accomplished. We wanted the SawBlade. There weren't any SawBlade robots at the time. We're unaware of Scorpios' application. Also the flamethrower, and we had to make it green. So we had a whole bunch of things going for it, and trying to integrate that into a theme. That we took a gamble. We ventured that the producers are going to gravitate towards something which is sort of thematic more so than just robots and mechanics. So it's like, let's try to put the flamethrower on the arm, and we can make the head shaped like a dragon so it breathes fire, and then we can go slash and burn as our motto, because agriculture is on the mind right now. Yeah. Burn and slash.
So it kind of evolved organically, as more pieces started to fit together, the puzzle started to kind of form, so
basically. I can't remember all the plethora of different proposals for themes. I don't think that they were nearly as uniformed as that one.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad you guys stuck with this one because it
worked out.
I think Hexbug's pretty happy with how you went with the design. So there you go.
Yeah,
you chose good. Okay, so the big bad forum troll on YouTube, which is also a wonderful name, asks, and I'm going to try to say this without laughing: how many pounds of handsome does the camera add? Or are you contractually obligated by BattleBots to look fire all the time?
How many pounds of awesome? If awesome does handsome?
Handsome, yeah.
Yeah.
If handsome could be measured in weight, I don't know.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, that would have been my first question. But hey,
What if it's a volumetric measurement?
The C, right?
Yeah. How many liters of handsome is it?
Just pour it on.
Yeah.
That's so good.
I like that. Just pour it on. Just pour on the handsome. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Luke Quintal, obviously driver of Copperhead for this season, asks, why do you and Aaron Fan keep bolting weird robots together?
I'd like to know this as well.
Why not? My question for Luke: why haven't you started, man? He's referring to the series of ham robots. And the ham robots that we bring to competitions, or lately bring to competitions, are it's our way of relaxing. I mean, at this point, people take me and Aaron pretty seriously as robot builders and competitors, but sometimes you just want to go to an event and have a fairly low stakes. Just I mean, we got into building robots. We build sorts of creative necks when we were younger, and we don't want to lose the ability to have that kind of fun because people take us seriously. People like at our stage, and certainly now, they'll sort of project their expectations onto you, and so we want to make it very clear that we still want to have fun. So our way of doing that is building something which is clearly for fun, and sometimes we're surprised that it does well. But the idea is to build something that's sort of zany, that's new, and to split up the control effort to make it utterly impossible. It's like you give each other one wheel of the robot and say, "Go forward." It's a lot of fun.
It's so
a big
ridiculous.
challenge.
It's a joyous robot.
Yeah. The ham robots, the collaborative hams, are a more recent thing. The classic hams are one-person driver sort of things that just were silly constructions of foam. Aaron has mentioned that on a few other places. You can definitely ask him more about the history of ham. I won't take that away from him. But the modern collaborative hams, that's kind of what we're going for these days.
Yeah, the one stuck to side, where it kind of just sort of gets its way across the box.
Yes, the Tale of Three Hams.
Tale of Three Hams, that's right. There you go.
That's a classic one. And then more recently, Hamshake, which is...
There you go, yep.
Yeah.
It's a good segue.
That's good stuff. Well, PB2 on Discord has asked, is there any enthusiasm to build a heavyweight version of A Tale of Three Hams?
Or would you fight it?
Well, you've run BattleBots now. SawBlaze is obsolete. It's time to evolve.
We would be counted out before really anything. The match would start and we would be counted out.
Yeah.
So the funny thing about the Tale of Three Hams is that we didn't do much work into developing the locomotion, and also in classic ham, there's a few rules that we go by. One of which is you're not supposed to spend a lot of time on it. So we're basically the week rolling up to it, we could only do things by hand or by 3D printing, and so there wasn't much time to develop how does the BristleBot motion work. And I'll say I took a gamble, and my side actually worked out, I think, fairly well. It had these directional bristles with the servo, so you can go forwards and backwards somewhat controllably. Aaron's half had a bristle that had attached to one servo, had one big bristle, and it'd go like this. And for whatever the mechanics of it, it went backwards really well, but not forwards. Only at certain RPMs, which was the vibration was a function of the other two sections of it. So we had three people trying to figure out what speed to spin at so that Aaron's half could go forward well. So if we brought that and we, in classic ham fashion, brought it to BattleBots with the time that we spent, we would probably get counted out as soon as the match started.
Yeah.
So translation, or trying.
Yeah.
It's an experience, it's a out of body experience watching that robot fight.
It's a proving grounds one,
There you go.
That's it.
As the plan.
Mm-hmm.
Oh dear. We did get another question about actually building a heavyweight silent spring. That was Laura Vincent Engshen. I think that's how you pronounce that. Yeah. Have you thought about bringing heavyweight silent spring to BattleBots as well?
So maybe I would consider the next version, which I haven't finished yet. But this version, as it stands, what makes it somewhat unique is I'd say a large portion of it is the weight bonus that we get from NHRL for having the non-wheeled locomotion. But otherwise, for all practical purposes, it's basically a rotator. So, single-bladed rotator.
Yeah.
So I'd probably say, I know no specific plans for it right now, unless I made it drastically different. Rotator exists and rotator is quite good. So I can't see Silent Spring kind of getting in there and making a unique mark on the landscape of robots.
Mm-hmm. Well, it does have the weapon modularity where you can move in and kind of adjust for whatever opponent you're fighting. But of course we know Silent Spring for its undercutteriness and
true. I actually
horizontaliness.
forgot about the modularity.
Yeah,
I haven't exercised that in a while. So the last time I competed, I just kind of it's such a, and the robot folks would probably agree with this. It's such an undertaking to prepare all those things, and plus, I think at this point, it's playing the modularity game. It is strategically advantageous, but from a match proceedings level, it's a bit of a pain.
Yeah,
and I think it's more frustrating than anything. So, Silent Spring, its origins were to basically be a big explosions robot, and I think I'd like to leave it as it is. It makes just with the undercutter where it makes big hits. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think so.
It's reached its peak evolutionary form.
Reliability. That's the real key.
That's the name of the game.
Really is.
I know we've spoken to Victor in the past. He's also said, having the modules where it has, he had the double spinners. That was something that he liked having it, but it was something where, it's something else to go wrong and it's extra weight and it's basically preparing a whole of the robot, and something like that is just, it just takes time away from making what you've already got work.
It's better. Unique. It got him on the show. It was a strange. It got him a toy made, with the two blades, and then he kind of, took weakness out of his robot. You
exactly.
Go forward with what will be successful.
Exactly.
I feel like that's a rematch that has to happen again at some point, because it's been a while since you guys fought.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it should have been last season when he was having problems. I don't want to fight a full powered rotator.
Heavens no.
We'll do one more listener question before we move on to the episode itself. We will have more later on. I think this is a critical question. Really, it comes from Nick Cole, who is the builder of Solanza Frog and does a load of graphics for lots of different teams around the world. And he asks, what happens when and if Towel Guy stops spinning the towel?
Oh, I don't know if I could tell you the answer to that.
Oh,
yeah.
Classified.
Yeah, you guys might. So some other team might try and take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Some
guarded trade secret.
some have guessed that the entire team overheats and Team SawBlaze ceases to function.
Wow.
Some say that spinning the towel is actually.
So it's a fan.
It could be a fan.
Wow.
Some say that
you already have one of those. You have Aaron.
Aaron fan, yeah.
Wow.
It's better than my joke. I was going to ask for the tip speed of the fan.
There you go.
Less than 250, definitely. It's outside here. So
you hear the hum when it gets up to speed.
Spinner outside. It's not always the case, so that one is BattleBots approved.
All right.
Some say that the towel contributes to the rotation of the Earth.
Wow.
And no one should actually, no one would want to know what happens if he stops spinning the towel.
What if he spins the other way around, though?
Oh, no. Let's not even tempt fate.
It's like Superman. Was it Superman 4 where he spun the Earth backwards?
It travels back in time.
Yeah.
There you go.
We've now discovered the secrets of, the Earth's rotation. My goodness.
We're finding the true facts on this podcast,
Yeah, this is
the true actual facts. I mean, the people on the BattleBots
wiki have just lost their minds. Towel Guy's actually God. Okay, well, let's move on from Towel Guy and let's get on to, I think, one of the best episodes of BattleBots reboots, if not BattleBots ever.
Yeah.
And I think we should start with, is it the fight of the season? I mean, it might be. SawBlaze versus Minotaur. Jamison, talk us through this one, because obviously you fought them before. This was a lot closer, I felt, until it wasn't.
I think last year had the potential for that as well. So we were looking at this fight, and we were feeling, okay, we fought Minotaur before. The strategies that we had employed last season were probably going to be how we're going to look at this one again. Last year we discovered that a lot of the robot is a lot more. That the forks in particular, were a lot more durable. Last season, as you remember, we changed the construction of the forks. They used to be made of several different plates that are welded together, and now they're kind of going for this unibody, single piece, really rigid, easy to make design. A lot more spindly. It's not my favorite in terms of aesthetics, but functionally and practically they're very good. So when last year we learned that the forks were actually durable enough to go take hits dead on from the drum, and so a lot of our strategy were, instead of trying to avoid the drums, actually just to go straight for it. So like the beginning of season 6, there's a lot of maneuverability. We're hitting each other on the ends a lot. He's kicking us in the air, but not throwing us. So we just need to go in with a lot of momentum. So from the very first interaction, we charge straight into it. We feed one fork, and actually he goes flying. And I was like, that's awesome. That's a great start.
Let's do that again.
Yeah, so just keep doing that. Really trying to get in position for a hit on their plates. So interesting thing about Minotaur, for this year, they tried to add a composite layer to their armor. And as you heard from Marco, they only had the weight to do it to the top plate, not to the bottom plate. We didn't know that. We just knew they were adding composites, and weight would presumably come out of somewhere. So it's like, all right, just going to have to hit them a bunch and see if one of them can make it through. I don't know how effective the composites were. I'm not even sure if they had enough time to set. So I was more worried personally that if we hit them, we would just get epoxy all over the blade because it hadn't cured yet or something.
But maybe like 5-minute
epoxy or something. Yeah, it's a gooey mess. So the first hit, we trapped them in the corner. Their drum is still spinning. It's really dangerous. Strike down. I was eyeballing. I think I'm over the weapon motor. Maybe we can get through the weapon motor and then slow it down or something. So we hit over the weapon motor, but they have the top plate, the composite, and I think each one of their motors is housed in an aluminum block. So nothing happened. And luckily later we were able to get ram them into the wall, flip them over, and then get a hit on the back plate in the same spot, basically as last year, but 90 degrees apart from that. And it was at first it was like, okay, we didn't hit anything good. Nothing happened for quite a while. I'd say a few seconds later is only until the smoke started to come out, and that was a yes moment.
Yeah.
Last year I had John Mayo to remind me. He said the fight ain't over till it's over. I think he said last year to me. So this year I didn't have him to whisper that in my ear, but that's fine. We played it seriously, thinking that we had the advantage until Minotaur started to get additional bites on the fork. So obviously the first hit, which sent Minotaur careening a little bit, if the fork was underneath it, the impact would have looked different, right? He would have slid off the fork. He would have gone this way instead of directly backwards. And then the hits that were after we hit over the weapon, after we struck over the weapon motor, you can tell on the same fork, I think it was robot right, bounces the robot backwards and kind of flings us around. The robot right fork is probably not a sharp edge anymore. And I think that's the one, I don't remember any actually. I think that's the one where he starts to bite on that flips us over. So, and actually after the fight, that's the one that's also has a nice little 30-degree curve, somewhat like this at the end. So he flips us over. We self-right, that's fine. But actually, if you notice in that fight as well, there's the mechanics in the back of the arm. We call it the backrest, and that's responsible for resting the arm on the ground. So there's two rollers that you had your mouse over. Those rollers touch the ground normally, and if they aren't there anymore, then the arm will hover a little bit off the ground because it has rubber stops that touch on the back plate. And similar to sometimes you see Scorpios with the heavy blade, when they accelerate, kind of pops wheelie. And so no amount of we have magnets under the center fork. You mentioned that counteract that action for us, the acceleration torque. So now we have this cantilever, like seesaw thing. Minotaur hits, he actually rips the rollers off. And so when one time we accelerate, the fork is lifted into the drum instead of being underneath it. It kicks us over. And then we're trying to self-right. And I've been really good about this. I've been practicing those self-rights, but there's a bit of a timing to it. That's what makes it tricky. If you do it too fast, Because what you do is the robot has to, sandwich over, and then it actually rolls over the head to a position where opening again kicks the robot over. If you do it too soon, then the robot just does this does that thing. So
like
it's
setting
actually
up a tent.
Try all of this with the Hexbug toy. It works almost exactly the same.
Yeah, you can't do it too fast. So it's doing it too fast. And the robot doesn't go over the first time. You gotta try again. It was probably like the third time. Just have to wait just a little bit longer. But that's exactly the time where Daniel got into position to hit the robot on the arm. Actually, it's actually not that bad. It folded over the sprocket guard and the sprocket, which broke the chain, but the frame wasn't hit at all. The robot was like levitating, so it's kind of cool. We use the same frame for the rest of the fights. So the arm is dead, and then later the weapon was still spinning. It cut itself because the blade was bent, so it cut the belt and it ejected the belt sometime later. And that was just a push bot. I love how the fight just is like swaying back and forth. And I think by that point, Minotaur, I would give them damage for sure. That's always, it's hard to say in hindsight, but maybe for a lot of the builders who are critical of themselves, maybe I'm thinking in my mind that Minotaur is having the slight edge. So
even though they're clearly very much on fire.
Yeah, but the Brazilians like being on fire.
But they're still going strong, right? The drum,
the drum is still spinning. That's the big difference from the last time you fought.
Functional damage is a big thing, isn't it? Like, if they had lost a wheel or the drum, then it's then okay. It's a bit more obvious, but because you'd lost your weapon and they were still on fire but still fully functioning, that becomes a bit more cloudy. I completely see where you're coming from.
Yeah, and aggression, depending on how you consider it. We're going into Minotaur's drum, so some people could say aggression is on the Minotaur's edge. Control it might give to us. Luckily, at the end of it, we didn't have to find out because the fire that was caused eventually, as I think they told us, they got to their receiver and it melted it. So the whole robot was basically gone. No control after that. But the questions that we seem to get a lot is, who do you think would have won? If Minotaur continued to function at the end, I think it'd be a very dicey judge's decision. If they lost full function and it just elapsed 3 minutes, I think that damage would go back in our favor. That's full robot function. So luckily we didn't have to find out. I think that's the best way to end, is a great fight back and forth, similar to the Minotaur blacksmith fight. A great fight, a lot of action, and a decisive end. So there's no controversial decision by the end.
No, it was a spectacular fight. I mean, the fact that BattleBots put it straight up as the fight of the week and were like, is this fight of the season? Completely understandable. I do wonder. The only thing I think that could have changed it in Minotaur's favour, I know they, as you said, they had the fire on their receiver, but I do wonder if them driving around and having the weapon spinning and everything else was somehow fanning the fire the other way. And I do wonder when you stuck them on the screws right at the end, and I do wonder if them not driving around and not having the air going through,
it kind of put them on the rotisserie where the fire started to kind of move around the robot.
Exactly, and I do wonder if that. It's impossible to tell, obviously, and the fact that I think the fire came a lot earlier this time than it did in your first fight.
Yeah, they had 7 seconds left on the clock. That's how close it was.
Yeah. And that's another gripe I have, BattleBots. I do know that we're trying to increase the tension, but as soon as the clock is on the screen, I know that Minotaur's going to die because we're trying to count the seconds between, when the count's going to happen. And they never show the clock on the screen before it's like 10 seconds left. So, it's either leave it on the screen or don't. Because it kind of like I knew that Minotaur wasn't going to come. Well, we'll see. I don't know. Maybe it was going to be tension and they were going to come back to life, Gladiator style season 3 classic, stuck against the wall, and they're like, oh, they're alive. But this is a classic. This is one of those fights that if you want to show somebody BattleBots, this is the one you can show. It was just tour de force, start to finish. And similarly with the first fight though, but I think this one, this one's a step above. just a touch.
I like this one a lot better. I mean, I think that the last season's fight tailored off a little bit when we lost our belts.
And they lost their weapon too.
No, that was still working, but it was definitely decreased power.
Yeah.
The people are they like to say, oh, the Minotaur lost their drum. They would have SawBlaze would have lost if they didn't lose. No, they still is working. It's just decreased power. Speed controller issue, I think Daniel was telling me. But this one was much better. It's probably one of my favorite fights of all time.
I mean, what's the kind of the come down after that? Kind of the adrenaline's all going. You've obviously had this incredible fight, which is going to be loved by everyone because I think that I've not seen a single comment where I've been like, oh, that was a bad fight. What's the kind of
Minotaur is capable of having a bad fight. Honestly, every fight this season they've had is a banger. I mean, since last year, let's put that in because there's one fight I can think of that's not. But yeah, no, this year they've had banger after banger after banger, and it's been incredible. But yeah,
I think unanimously fans will say SawBlaze fights and Minotaur fights are more often than not they're just really good no matter what. I think the only bad Minotaur fight I can ever think of is that one season where they're having weapon spin up problems, and that's about it.
Yeah,
they're all awesome fights. They have great opponents and they do lots of damage. It's such an aggressive, characteristic robot.
It really is. It really is, and it's a shame that they had to go. What have you had to? I mean, at this point, they're getting so close to that elusive championship.
I have a feeling all three of us, as before the bracket began, myself, Steve, and David all went, this could well be Minotaur's year, and then we saw the bracket.
That was the feeling in the
it's
pub,
not.
Wasn't it?
It's not Minotaur's year.
It's not. No. Jamison put a big stop to that very quickly.
Yeah.
How dare you? The nation of Brazil. The nation of Brazil is now. You've got a target on your back from them.
I've got maybe 4 robots on the top of my list where it's just a matter of time where they're going to take it. The Minotaur is definitely one of them.
Yeah, 100%.
It has to happen at some point,
Yeah. It's a shame because only one can win a year, right? And that's the thing. The field is so good these days that it's a shame when X or Y loses, but that's how it be sometimes.
It's just the way the bracket goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll talk a bit more about SawBlaze a bit later on. Second fight of the night was Huge versus Witch Doctor. Now,
wow,
Jamison, you're not the only guest we've got this week because I know. Yesterday, I grabbed about half an hour with Jonathan Schultz, and he had this to say about this fight with Witch Doctor. So let's start with Witch Doctor. On paper, probably you looked at it and thought, it's Mad Catter again. That's a good fight. But Witch Doctor hits very hard.
It's another level. You know what I mean? Like Witch Doctor or Mad Catter is very good. But Witch Doctor is like Witch Doctor. And you kind of think of it also of like if someone's gonna have a plan, if someone's out there has watched all our fights, it's probably someone at their level. So yeah, we were nervous to say the least. Also, we talked a lot of crap for a long time. Witch Doctor and Bite Force and stuff. So there's the pressure from that too. Like, I hope I don't blow this. It'd be really great. Could not blow this.
I mean, on paper, I mean, as I said, it's a good fight for you. You've just come off the back of fighting a meta 4-wheel drive vertical spinner in Mad Catter and did pretty well. Had some issues, but controlled the fight. As you say, Witch Doctor is another level, but he made it seem, if anything, slightly easier. You made less of a meal of it than maybe the Mad Catter fight. There's one great shot where you send Witch Doctor flying through the air. That was the one for me where I was like, okay, Huge is very serious now.
This is the same as the little Huges. Oh god.
What have you unleashed upon the rest of the field?
We set the fox loose in the hen house a little bit. Once Huge is in the bracket past the first round, there's not a whole lot left there. We broke ourselves against Mad Catter, obviously. We were not conserving, as the show was so eloquently saying. It just broke, and it came back magically, and that was amazing and very convenient that it came back. But I would have preferred it had stayed working. And so we felt pretty confident that we'd fix that going into Witch Doctor, which I think led to it looking a lot better, but we still broke ourselves. So we just broke ourselves later and less drastically, in a fixable way, where every time I thwacked the butt over, the chunks of magnet that were stopping the motors from turning would move and fall into a well between the magnets, and then the motor would turn again.
Oh, no. So it was kind of shifting all the broken magnets that were inside the weapon. That's so good.
You can see a couple times where it just like turns a quarter turn and it goes clunk, and then I whack and it. You can see it start to free up, and then
that's so good.
Put up again, and so yeah, we had a lot of work to do after that. But it went so much better, and it got those bigger hits too, with like throwing them and taking off the ribcage armor and stuff that I felt like are more in line with how we should be, right? Like we've had the fight with Hypershock in the past. Every time Huge fights the Verts, we talk all our crap, and then that was a pretty picky poke fight. There wasn't a whole lot of like big colossal hits or damage.
This was much more like it.
Yeah, this is what it should be. It's just like they're on another level, seeing it up close, like Mad Catter and Witch Doctor and Copperhead and stuff.
I mean,
how well they're put together.
It's the budget as well, right? It's like, you know, with Mad Catter, we've kind of talked about a lot before about they are a team on a budget. You know, Witch Doctor aren't kind of restrained by the same budget constrictions that Mad Catter are. Let's say.
No, I think Witch Doctor is a robot that was built like if this is the robot we would build unlimited.
That's crazy, isn't
it? It's just so well, you know, it's not just that it's aluminum bolted together, but there's tabs that come out of everything that all slot into each other, and everything's got round corners because it cracks less, but that costs money. But it's just, you know, they have the sponsors, and they also know what they need to do. Like there's a lot of people out there who have the sponsors and don't know what they need to do anyways, but it's just so solidly put together. And then you look behind the front wedges and it's just empty. There's nothing in there. Like the whole front 6 inches of it, there's nothing even in there for me to hit in the first place. Like it's like, damn, this robot is on another level of being well put together compared to, you know, any of the non-verts and anybody who hasn't taken those hits before. It was really impressive to see it up close versus in the past we just kind of saw it on TV and shook our fists and said we'll get our chance. Like I don't think the other Huges could have beaten it. They would have broken themselves on it for sure. It's sturdy.
When you beat Witch Doctor, is that the kind of, okay, I think we can win the whole thing now? Was that the tipping point, or was it before that? Did you already believe at that point that it was on?
So it was kind of a mix. When we were sitting waiting to go in to fight Witch Doctor, we watched on the TVs SawBlaze versus Minotaur, and it was amazing. First of all, best fight I've ever seen. And we were in the arena, so you could hear all of it. We basically knew that for as long as SawBlaze was still alive, we were at risk. Like it
was the only thing that could reach you. Well,
right. There's no guarantee.
Almost, yeah, Hydra as well, but you know,
right. But I feel better against Hydra than I would against SawBlaze.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no guarantees, and so we're not acting like there's guarantees, but SawBlaze is a much more existential threat, and we were viewing it as that, as like, okay, all the other existential threats went out very quickly, and if someone could just finish off SawBlaze here, then we can relax. So I never fully said this is our tournament, because they were still alive.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, yeah, once we beat Witch Doctor, and now we're at new high watermark, top 8, it goes from, you know, I've hit my goals, we've really done it, to like, okay, best season ever. Like, and I think you can see that come across in the show. It's about at that point, I'm just like, yeah, I'm happy. Best season ever. If
anything happens, anything from here is a bonus sort of thing.
We're happy. You know, we're realistic. We know what we showed up with. We know what Huge is. We're not gonna beat ourselves up because we got second place or fourth place or anything like that. It's all a win. You know, it's still weird.
Interesting stuff. These guys have no idea what was said, so we might be retreading old ground.
Controversial.
I mean, the long and the short of it is, this is a very similar fight to the Mad Catter fight that they had in the previous round, except Witch Doctor is a bit more evolved, a bit more dialed up, I suppose, compared to Mad Cat. A lot more budget behind it as well. You can kind of see that in the way that it causes damage.
Yeah.
And Huge is just on an absolute tear. Really...
Huge is finally fighting bots that suit it. You know, this is what it was designed to do. It was designed to beat robots like Witch Doctor, like Mad Catter. It's finally going on this run that I'm sure Jonathan's dreamed of, and I look forward to hearing what he has to say. But this was, I didn't expect this to be as one-sided as it was, considering Witch Doctor's run through the tournament was pretty good. You know,
Mad Catter gave Huge a lot of aggro, and I thought on paper you'd think Witch Doctor would probably give them a little bit more, but if anything, they kind of went back and said, okay, that was a bit too close in a fight that we should be winning. Let's make sure we don't do that again. And Huge was just unbelievable. I mean,
Witch Doctor didn't really get a single really considerable bite, and once their weapon is shot.
About to say as well, they didn't really have an answer for Huge. No. I don't think it's one of those times where you look at Witch Doctor and go, "What are you going to do?" You know, you've built this machine designed to hit hard, and then you're given this weird, flimsy, bouncy, strangely huge robot, and what can you do with it?
This giant toll gate on wheels.
Gangly son of a something, as we put it, right?
Yep.
I look forward to the day that Witch Doctor has big wheels to fight Huge.
I mean, James, you fought Witch Doctor on several occasions. There must have been a part of you where you're thinking, am I going to end up fighting them in every single round of the tournament? Like you fought them in the round of 16 before, in the quarterfinals, last year in the semis. There was a very real possibility where you're like, now I'm going to fight Witch Doctor in the final this year.
I mean, that's fine. Yeah, we'll fight them. We'll fight them anytime.
There you go.
You'll fight them in the qualifiers too. That's what it is. What it is. Witch Doctor fights is always some of our best fights. I think they're either really good slugfests or they're very entertaining to watch from the Witch Doctor side. So, I mean, either one of these robots that win, it's going to be pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. But I was surprised at the very start. I feel like that first impact, I mean, it just spelled disaster for them. I feel like, honestly, Mad Catter had a better fight, you know, against Huge. Witch Doctor, because at least Mad Catter bit a chunk out of the wheel, but Witch Doctor losing the weapon almost immediately is that's just no good.
No, it is a shame for them. But Huge moving on to the round of 4.
Yeah,
who'd have thought it?
Nice.
Who would have thought it? But we'll get to that fight a bit later on. Let's talk about quarterfinal number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Ribbot versus Hydra.
This has got to be up there.
One for the purists.
It's like Foxic Mr. Speed Squared. Sorry, Craig Danby. This was one of the worst fights I've ever seen.
Do you know what? Okay, it was.
Is this where the sport's going?
No. Okay, so
staring contest.
Hear me out on this one.
Chill. Calm for a moment.
Okay. I kind of enjoyed the tension. I don't know about no.
The tension was too drawn out. Like it was less robot combat, more ballroom dancing.
Ballroom dancing comes later, Gemma. We haven't got there yet.
The term edging comes to mind at this fight.
I wasn't going to say it, but you've said it now, David. So thank you for saying it.
It really was.
I
think we did our interview previously with Jake. And he said he's tired of playing the ground game. And I was trying to think for the life of me, like, but Hydra's really good. And then I saw this fight back and I was like, oh no, I get it fully.
I mean, look,
someone is sick of the fork meta.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I mean, Jake could just make his robot fork less. It's up to him.
Right.
This is true.
I don't know.
They both had pretty poor mobility as a result of that. But
their
robots
every single floor scene was like ding,
terrible.
Ding, ding, you know. It was an interesting fight from a tactical point of view. It was interesting.
I've not seen a fight like it ever.
No, that's what I mean. You know, it's certainly unique.
And I hope to never see a fight like it ever.
It was headache inducing. I love both teams. You know, I love both. They're both great. But we don't ever show this to me again. This is like Rick Moranis in Spaceballs, where he flies into the control panel, you know, when they're fast forwarding through the movie. It's like, never show this to me again.
It was something.
It was honestly like a mating ritual.
Yeah,
just all walking around each other.
I've seen more interesting mating.
We can't keep that in, Steve. They did. The weapon guy on Ribbot said, "Touch tips." I couldn't believe it. What a guy.
Yeah, primetime television, everyone.
Absolutely. Eventually, Jake gets bored, fires the flipper. Is like, do you know what?
He told us he got bored later on in the evening, and I don't blame him.
Yeah, this fight could have taken place in the test box for how much floor they covered. But anyway,
yeah, it is a shame that Hydra didn't get to go through. I mean,
enough bashing.
No,
you know.
I have to ask, Jamie. Obviously, we mentioned already. You have the one loss you had this year was to Hydra. Was there a part of you that wanted to fight them again to kind of set the record straight, so to speak, or were you anxious to fight Ribbot? Because obviously you fought them before, you've beaten them before.
No, I have no desire to fight Hydra again.
That's fine.
It would be. I mean, we'd never do this for sure. Like, SawBlaze is a robot that likes to drive. It's fast, and we're all aware of the goal is we're making TV here. We want to win the competition, of course. But the means at which you do it is also important to us, and I don't think we'd ever do anything like this. This was very patient, very tactical, but
some would call upsetting.
It was like my thoughts in it were it was comical. Yeah.
Oh, it was funny.
My team was, of course, we were watching very intently because we were going to fight the winner of this. Absolutely. And I think I remember someone yelling in the pit like, "Yeah, forks are awesome. BattleBots forks are the future. They make the sport great." Like someone yelled that in the pit, and it was so loud, and we just like broke out laughing because whoever it was saying exactly what everyone was
thinking. It's
everyone's internal monologue.
It's funny. I saw a comment on. I mean, you shouldn't read too much into the social media posts that you see.
No,
but
never.
Like, I saw a comment saying, "Get rid of the kill saws and make the floor perfectly smooth."
That's the point.
This is what this fight becomes then. Because if you have a perfectly smooth floor and no kill saw slots,
whenever anybody asks that question to either Greg or Trey, they both say that's why they're there. The kill saws are the ultimate meta breaker with forks. So
We've seen it work this season with Endgame. That is all the proof you need to
and
kind of.
Ribbot previously, if Quantum had got a good bite, just thought I'd bring that one up, Steve, for you.
I know, you're just ripping my heart out and just pouring it everywhere. Wonderful.
Such a shame.
I mean, I think this fight, the fork game, it actually had nothing to do with the kill saws, and I don't think it had anything to do with the floor being uneven.
They didn't cover enough floor for it to matter.
They were going to, if the floor was one piece perfectly smooth, they were just going to do this until the correct number, because they've got like what 7 Ribbot had 7.
How many permutations here could we have?
Yeah, it's just trying to guess. All right, so we're going under, they get underneath, they go over, they get stuck, and you just keep doing that until finally you get more underneath, and then you do something else.
Yeah,
but you got to get all 7 to line up. The probability just results in this stalemate.
It kind of reminded me of the fight that we had with this year with Endgame and Tantrum, where they just kind of, just didn't like the forks didn't mesh quite right for any of them to really get a good hit until Endgame finally got their hit. That's
the same happened here when Ribbot eventually started chewing into Hydra. I mean, Hydra was sad.
Yeah, well, that's the thing we've talked about it before. Hydra is not really heavily armored.
It can't be. There's not enough weight.
No, I know. And maybe that's another reason why Jake maybe wants to come back with something that's that can take a hit and still keep kicking, because I feel like if he's not on the front foot for the majority of the fight, and it's like he takes one hit and he's already really hampered. I think he wants something more fun to play with in the box, something that could last the full 3 minutes. If he's on the back foot, if he's not and he's perfect the whole time. He said it in the pre-fight interview where it's all Ribbot needs is that one big hit, and he needs to dominate the whole match. So Hydra's been a very cool, fun experiment to see. I don't know if he'll bring it back. I'd love for him to bring it back, but if he brings back something different, I wouldn't be disappointed. But
this is its 4th season. Let's not forget. I mean, 4 years of Hydra.
It's been around for quite a bit, hasn't it?
Yeah, and 2019 it debuted.
according to the team, I don't know how much has actually changed internally, but it said it's fairly original. There's not much that's gone on inside.
It shedded its Argyle sweater after the first season, and then
I think it's the exact
really
same robot from last year that
our
came
last
back.
quarterfinal sees Copperhead and Riptide, and we have another guest.
What?
I know.
I might even be in this one.
You are in this one, and so is Jevon, because
I'm still not.
You're still not, David. No. We had a little bit of extra time. We had a little bit of extra time with Luke Quintal, who we spoke to a couple of weeks ago, to talk about his fight with Riptide. So, Luke, we've just kind of seen your fight with Riptide, first of all. Talk us through it a little bit.
Yeah!
I mean, there's that great clip at the end of the episode where they kind of they wheel you through you're wheeling through the pits and everyone is just chanting Copperhead, Copperhead.
Wonderful.
The supercut was really cool. I really liked that.
As the fight ended, right, and everything, the judge's decision and everything happened. First and foremost, first thought in the fight was, oh my god, he might win this, and then the wheel goes on like, no. But no, then with the fight finishes and everything, and I am immediately messaging Lindsay from the team, just like, oh my god, this just happened. It's like, it was so good. It was so good.
Oh my gosh, the fight was incredible. I mean, I think the beginning of the fight, it went very similar to our fight with Endgame, where we were just literally getting annihilated until we weren't. So I think in the first couple of hits, Riptide just blasts us across the arena. It's not looking good for us. And then through the chaos of the fight, somehow we went weapon on weapon, and then Riptide's beater weapon just exploded. And and after that, the tides had changed. So they don't have a weapon anymore. I feel like the tides changed. And we just started chiseling away at them, taking hits, knocking them over. I think they were inverted for quite some time. But then randomly in the fight, our wheel just rolled right off the robot. We had never seen anything like that. And I was just devastated. You lose track of time in a fight. So you don't know how long certain things happen. You just remember these key moments that happen in the fight. And as soon as I saw our wheel fall off, in my mind, I'm like, we just lost the fight. Lost the decision. I thought we lost. As soon as that happened, I thought we lost. We were still doing damage. Our weapon was still working, but I had to crab walk. We lost half the traction. So Riptide, when they were still right side up, they were still pushing us around, which is really annoying because they had lost their weapon. They still have a pretty good drive. But we're still doing damage. So
by the word of the rules, you're still being aggressive because it's using your primary weapon, and so it's it works out in your favor quite well.
Yeah. And for a significant amount of the fight, they were upside down. We were still hitting them, but we're still trying to do damage. We're still trying to show aggression, and one of those moments, flip them back over. They're still coming at us. So when it went to the judge's decision, I was not feeling good. I was not. I honestly, in my mind, I seriously, I didn't think we won that fight when at the time of it happening. Because in my mind, I'm just like, in the beginning of the fight, they were hitting us. We did some damage. We broke their weapon, but they were still showing a lot of aggression. Our wheel fell off. The wheel fell off right at the weld point, so I think our drive axle had just from 4 years, it might have gotten some stress fractures in it. It was a clean break. No more. I'm done. Right where the weld is. So
I do want to know, was there some strategy to try and keep them upside down for as long as possible, or was it just a case of keep hitting them?
It was just keep hitting them, because there's no way that you can just be like, well, I like it when they're upside down because it's easier to feed them into the weapon. It's easier to get good energy transfer in that kind of position. But I would have loved for them to stay upside down, but you have to keep hitting them, have to keep doing damage. So it was just hit them, be aggressive, try to gyro, and yet, once the wheel fell off, it's just try to gyro around the arena, try to show that you know what you're doing, try to show that you're in control. But it was crazy because, leading up to the fight, like I said, I didn't know a lot of the controversy. Much drama. I didn't know, and there was even more drama that I didn't want to be a part of because, as we know, Ethan, their driver,
was missing. He wasn't there.
We haven't even discussed that yet.
Yeah, I know. We haven't even talked about why Ethan wasn't driving, and it's because he was diagnosed with COVID, but Ethan wasn't able to drive, and nobody else knew how to drive the robot. Nope. So that they were frantically trying to find a new driver, and they went across the pits and they went to Jack from Endgame.
Yep.
They want
I thought this was a rumor.
Like, no, the first person that they tapped on the shoulder to drive Riptide was Jack from Endgame, like one of the most experienced roboteers in the building. And so like there's they'll probably show it where like Jack is driving Riptide in the test box and getting a feel for it. And when we found out about this, like we're like, no, like you can't do that. Like I want Jack to drive Copperhead.
It's not on your team. It's like
but at this time there had been no precedent set for this. Like
no.
There
will be now. Probably.
There will be now, and I feel kind of bad about this because there's some people that jump between teams, but they don't usually play like a significant role where it's like the driver that's hugely important. Yeah. There's some teams like Team Waiachi that run multiple robots. They're kind of under the same umbrella. Team Seems Reasonable has Blip and Tantrum, so it might make more sense for them to maybe switch team members because it's really hard to differentiate like who's on what team. But
same goes for Omega potentially.
Yeah, like Team Omega, they got two robots. They're kind of all under the same umbrella. But like when you just walk across the pits and you want Jack from Endgame to like drive your robot, I'm like, come on, guys, like. You try to get the best driver in the whole freaking building to fight us?
Where's Maddie Vasquez?
Yeah, so we did make a stink about that, and I do feel like I wish we didn't because now there's like a new rule. I hope they don't call it I hope they don't call it the Copperhead rule. Like Deep Six has a rule where you can't have a weapon over 80 pounds. That's a cool rule. Like that's a rule like you want to be known for, but hopefully they don't call it the Copperhead rule where it's like somebody on your team has to be the driver.
I mean
surely that's common sense. Like
it feels like something that should already be in the rules and just isn't. And it's this another case in point of the rule book being built as the sport goes on. It's like, okay, things that you can't do: steal a driver from another team.
Well, so for me,
like your opponent's robot.
I and other people compare BattleBots to something like Formula One, right? So a couple of years ago, Lewis Hamilton, who'd already won the title, had COVID, and he couldn't race because he had COVID. So this is kind of a bad example because Mercedes did literally take a driver from another team. But the thing is, the driver who they took was a Mercedes junior driver, so it was the same umbrella, if you like.
Yeah.
Or normally they choose their reserve or whatever, right? You've got other people on the team, use them.
Yeah.
Use them first. It doesn't matter if who it is, just use who you've got. And then let's say the whole team's gone. That's then another matter entirely, but then the robot can't compete anyway, so what's the point?
Yeah.
It's for me, it was just kind of a bit messy, but
but they finally
against Riptide.
Leading up to after all the your fuggery with all the driver stuff, they do have to settle on somebody on their team. So you have Sid, who I don't think has any heavyweight experience. You have Deviled Egg. What's his name? Oh my god, I'm gonna look like an idiot. Wait a minute.
Idiot.
Wait a minute.
I'm gonna cut this out.
Yeah. Or not.
Is it Zach? I think it's Zach.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go with that. I don't know if he was the one that drove Deviled Egg, but he was on the team.
Yeah.
And then you have Felix Jing, who has driving experience at Vex. They went with him, and all this cloud of controversy and this, that, and the other, and Felix did a
really good job. Really good
driving
job.
Riptide. I think he did an exceptional job
for
filling in.
A young guy as well. I think they said he was 17.
17, yeah.
A lot of pressure. You kind of parachuted in at the last minute. Yeah, literally.
Or into the ocean in their deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he did a great job. I think he did a really good job considering that, you can't go in expecting your weapon to explode. You're hoping that the fight's going to go your way, that you got that confidence. Hopefully, but he did a good job filling in, and it's all credit to that team, adapting on the fly, after all the other things happened, once you realized that you had to pick somebody within your own group.
They've been faced with so much adversity.
Oh, stop it.
Anyway, that whole post-fight interview was
interesting.
I'm genuinely surprised they kept it in, but here we go.
Well, they had to. They talked to the top 4 seeds. They didn't talk to Witch Doctor though, which is interesting.
That's because they were foul-mouthed. No, they weren't. They weren't.
For better or worse, they had no choice because there's so much controversy that people
want to hear what they have to say.
The production team loves controversy. I know the builders
Couldn't
don't,
tell.
but yeah. But for better or worse, I mean, Riptide has probably drawn a lot of fans.
Correct.
Oh my god, yeah, absolutely.
So they have to acknowledge it. They don't have a choice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you're through. Yes.
Yep. And then, but at the end of the fight, so it was a split decision.
Of course.
And
they sort of glossed over the fact that
it was a split decision, and then Riptide, of course, because they have nothing to lose, they challenge it. Because why wouldn't they challenge it?
It was 6-5 across the board. All you got to do is flip one judge.
Yep.
Well, they did, but they didn't do it the right way.
Yeah, and then so they say that they're gonna review the footage, but I think this was the last fight of that session. Mm-hmm. So a whole bunch of time is going by. They're not gonna tell us if we won or lost until the next session, which is like 2 or 3 hours later. But in the meantime, we're pushing our robot through the pits. It's the biggest explosion of cheering I have ever seen. Like Tim Rackers is like picking me up like a rag doll, just like waving, just like picking me up, running through the crowd of people. Everyone is cheering, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, they challenged this, and it was a super close fight. I don't know if we actually won this fight because we're not gonna know until they come back 2 hours later for the next session. And I'm like, so, people are super excited. I'm smiling, but it's kind of like, I'm like, I don't know.
You still got that pit in your stomach.
Man, I'm going to feel so bad if they overturn our decision after everyone has just cheered. Like we're doing like shots of tequila, we're celebrating, like everyone's having the best time of their lives. But I'm like, man, this could be really ugly if they overturn this. And a couple of people are like, if they overturn that fight, we're burning down this building.
I did love that. So you mentioned Tim. He hyped you up so much before this fight. Did you hire him, or did he do it of his own accord?
No, like because like I said, I didn't know a lot of the controversy before the fight had happened. But leading up to the fight, people were like tapping me on the shoulders and they're like whispering in my ear, "You gotta beat Riptide." Like, and everyone is just like, "You have to beat them."
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, no pressure, guys. No pressure. Everybody was like whispering. They'd be like, hey, you have to beat Riptide. And I'm like, oh geez, like I don't want to be the one that loses to Riptide, but so everyone was hyping up the fight. Yeah, like we have to beat Riptide, and I'm like, well, no pressure, guys. Like, and then the fight, the beginning of the fight, we were definitely losing until their weapon exploded. It went very similar to how like Endgame fight went in my mind, but we got the win, and then it was unanimous when we came back the next session. They had a unanimous decision, which is really like the closure that we needed. Because in the back, like I said, I didn't actually see the fight. I haven't even to this. I never went back and I rewatched the fight because there was just so much on the line. But everyone was just like, "Oh yeah, we went back, we watched the fight. You totally won." And I was like, "Oh okay, well that's good."
Are you just being nice to me? Or are you serious?
Yeah, I mean, Lindsay in our message conversation says, because I told her that they were repealing it. I said, "Of course they're repealing it." And
how could you not?
She asked the question, "Is there any way in which that they could be successful in that appeal?" And I stupidly said, "Oh yeah," thinking like, is Copperhead going to be successful at this appeal? No, I got it wrong. But yeah, no, it was, in my mind, very clear cut that you had won the fight. The damage done was far too late and you were still being effective to some degree with it. Maybe you don't give all of the aggression points your way, but you still get most of them. And that's all you can ask for, really.
Absolutely.
Yep. So, yeah, I know it was so weird because it was the last fight of the session. Usually they have like a camera crew when there's appeals because they want that drama, they want the deliberation.
Yep.
But you're also supposed to be able to rewatch the fight before you talk to Mike Jeffries. So Mike Jeffries is the one that you talk to. You have to argue your case with Mike Jeffries, and he's like, "Here's the judges' scorecards. What do you think about this? What do you think about this?" And I'm like, "Well, we won." But in the back of my head, I was just like, well, I don't know. It's in my mind, it was pretty split. So I'm just like, yeah, I agree with the judges. I'm like, yeah, I agree with the judges. Yeah, like that makes sense. That makes sense. But then like, I think it was Sid that was arguing for Riptide, and they're like, they weren't being aggressive. They lost the wheel. Like, he's putting up a pretty good argument. But
yeah,
I definitely like didn't do myself any favors. I know my girlfriend is just like, you sounded like you wanted to lose in the post-fight interview. So like that's something I need to work on is like, regardless on how I feel
yeah,
how
we
the match
won it.
went,
Better poker face.
I'm like, yeah, we totally won. We kicked their butt, They're
What would have been the ultimate no-brainer for me is just to shout "Let's go" down the camera and just fully take that from them.
I think some of what helped is like it literally took the Riptide team like an hour to take the batteries out of their robot. So everyone leaving, like all the production people and like all the judges were like probably like exiting out the building, and you still see the Riptide team like trying to take the screws because like when they're upside down, our weapon was like hitting their top plate, which was like shearing off all the bolts to their top plate, so they couldn't actually take the batteries out. So they were out there for like a good hour trying to take the batteries out of the robot. We're just like, yeah, just throw the broken wheel in the cart, and we just take the top plate off like we usually do, wheel it back to the pits, and it was like pretty much a regular ordeal.
Yeah, Lindsay sent me this photo afterwards as well. Like I think it's very gnarly and messed up.
Yeah, it's a little chewed up,
man.
but
oh man,
but their drive was still working. Like they were still being aggressive and stuff. So
it was a hell of a fight. I mean,
it was a hell of a fight.
If you're going out, I mean, it's you've lost to one of the apex predators in the field, but the fact that you were able to turn it around and get the win, I mean.
Yeah, I mean,
a top four for Copperhead.
It was a fairy tale for us because our expectations were very low this season. It's the fourth year with the same old robot. I don't think anybody has come close to running the same two chassis for 4 seasons. I think we were tied with Uppercut last season. They were running the same couple frames, but our Copperhead is an old, tired dog at this point. And
I don't think we mentioned it when we spoke to you last week. We've liked Copperhead for the last few seasons. It's been a really cool robot. It's done the business. It's been very good. We love Copperhead this season, and I think that's not down to the fact that it's on its winningest season. It's down to the team that were there this time and how much fun you guys seem to be having. Like to camera, I don't know what was going on behind the scenes or whatever, but you guys always seem to be having a good time, and that really connects with an audience. And I think that's all down to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've always tried to prioritize like having fun. We did like the sock puppets. We've always done gags. We always try to do fun, silly things. But I guess, our robot has never performed up to all the other shenanigans that we've done. A lot of people just, obviously the better your robot does, the more people like it. And we always try to add more entertainment value to the show wherever we can. But if we're not winning fights, nobody really cares. I mean, some people care, but a lot of people don't. The casual fans don't really pay attention to us.
I get you.
100%. And the fact that we've had 3 captains doesn't help the situation either. Zach, the original designer, is fantastic builder, designer, and driver, but I don't think anybody would disagree with me that he's not great on camera. And then Robert picked up the slack, and most of Robert's interviews were cut, so we didn't get a lot of screen time.
I mean, it didn't help last year, particularly when Robert was captain by himself. It was, he got 2 fights in the preseason, and then his round of 32 fight was cut, and then he didn't even get his interview in the 16 either.
Nightmare. For how well we did, we had the least number of fights of any robot. We made it to like the round of, I don't know what we lost to Witch Doctor in this, like the round of 16, I think. But for how well we did, we had the least number of the smallest amount of screen time. And if you're not getting screen time, then nobody even knows who you are.
Yeah, your sponsors are mad, and then you're mad.
Yeah,
the robot's mad.
but I always thought that we had a decent robot. It's just for one reason or another, it didn't work out right. And this season, like the stars aligned, you know, like the only thing, the entire preseason, I spent the entire season fixing the damage from the Witch Doctor fight. And then that's all I spent the entire preseason doing was just fixing the Witch Doctor fight and then just putting the robot in a crate and sending it back to Vegas.
There you go.
That's all I did. I don't have like a big.
That'll do.
It's like it's like order an extra motor.
More green paint.
We didn't even fix the paint until we showed up on set. We had Chris and Lindsay like do the paint touch ups. Like expectations were low. Our team was tiny. We have like no spare parts. So the fact that we did this well, it's a fairy tale story. Like I would be, we're talking about what's going to happen next season, and had we not done this well, we would have probably just called it quits. Like there's nobody wants to rebuild a new robot, but because we did so well, now it's like, all right, like
there you got it.
Like now, how do we make this robot better? Let's do it.
Let's go again, sort of thing.
Let's go.
Yeah, there it is.
So, after all that, I mean, what a great fight!
It was awesome.
I mean, it was the whole tension about the driver situation was one thing.
Yeah,
I know we said with Luke previously, the guy Felix who was driving Riptide did extremely well. I think under a lot of pressure, and it was a bruiser. It was so bad. I mean. Yeah. The weapon splitting of Riptide is one thing, and then Copperhead's wheel coming off towards the end. Man, the tension must have been electric. I have to ask, Jevon and David, you were box side. What was going on?
Yeah, electric in the audience.
Yeah, this was the very end of the voice. I think. After like a week and a half being there at that point, Jevon was recovering from bot flu as well at that time, and was just sort of dosed up in the corner.
I lost my tiny mind. I think I spoke a lot in the video or the recording we did with Luke about it was just instantly on Messenger to Lindsay, who was on the team, and just saying, "Oh my god."
And I'm so glad they kept in like a clip at the very end of the show about just the whole of the pits cheering and shouting.
The team have uploaded that on their YouTube channel.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, the little drum spitter that could, because it is a 4-year-old machine. It has been through a lot this season in particular as well. It's fought Ripperoni, Rotator, Endgame, and now Riptide, and it's still going.
3 Rs.
Still surviving.
Oh my goodness! I mean, Jameson, you must have been watching this, thinking, Riptide is also a potential robot we could be fighting. You fought them before, but they seemed like they were on another level this year, and there must have been a little bit of I don't want to fight that, and there must be a little bit of relief that Copperhead won, surely.
Yeah, well, the trade-off is now we might have to think about how to fight Copperhead. So, it's about these robots. I mean, they're similar enough that they're destructive. They're compact. They're aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that Riptide going out makes it any less or any more any less difficult. Yeah. Doesn't make it any less difficult for us. Yeah, I remember we were in the pits. We were watching this fight. Man, the pits were an uproar. It was just swinging back and forth between O's and R's. It was. I think the whole pit just groaned when Copperhead's wheel fell off.
Yeah.
They're like,
We've gone this whole time. They've almost got it, and then no, not right at the end. If only for that.
Riptide before, but I don't. The changes that they made to the machine this year. Don't know if we would be able to do the same thing. I'd like to not find out, because Riptide is honestly a fantastic machine. It's so destructive, and the Ethan or Felix, really, they would drive it very aggressively. So glad we didn't have to think about that one anymore. But
and I will say, this is where that one of the biggest rule changes comes into play here. If that rule change, where if any movement is movement, isn't in, we maybe have a situation where Riptide just lets Copperhead spin in a circle and moves on. It's the fact that it's still crab walking around, or I mean, really, Riptide didn't give it much a chance to crab walk around. Felix was trying to pick up points at this point, trying to pin him against the wall and survive. But yeah, this was I mean, this fight is everything, I think, everything and more than what I thought it was going to be when we saw the possibility of this happening. When the bracket came out, you're like, oh, this fight could happen. It was awesome all the way through. And I'm very proud to be a Copperhead fan. I'm proud to be around. It was good to finally see this bot finally make a semi. They hadn't been past the round of 16 previously. And it's finally a huge similar deal where like this bot just hadn't quite made its way through, where it's had glimpses of brilliance, and it just hadn't happened until this year. And kudos to them. And of course with Riptide, it's been a tumultuous season. There's been a lot said and a lot done, but at the end of the day, when the dust settles, they made the final 8. There's nothing against making it that far. It's that they've had a spectacular year, and I imagine they'll make improvements for next year to be even scarier.
Yeah. I don't doubt it for a second. Well, our first semi-final. We mentioned ballroom dancing earlier.
Of course.
Ribbot and SawBlaze. That first minute where it was just.
Oh, jeez.
I don't blame either of you at all. I mean, at the end of the day, if either of you stopped, like the other one gets clouted. That's just how it works. So
that's just the funny thing. I actually, just to see what happened, I took my hands off the controller. I just looked at the ref, and he's just going in circles. Like you can watch the replay. At the beginning, we're doing this. At some point, Ribbot starts to do wider circles. SawBlaze. I took my hand off the controller. I was like, what do you want me to do? You need to tell them to back off. Otherwise, we're just gonna keep doing this. And so you heard the little snippet. It's like if I could go backwards, but then he's definitely gonna hit me. So if I do nothing, he just goes in circles. I'm like, all right, fine. We're not gonna figure out a way to stop this.
Yeah.
So then I start doing manual melting, where he's just full power going forwards, and so I'm actually pulsing the directions to bring us to the wall, and it kind of worked for a little bit. I hit the wall. I'm like, all right, whatever. I want him to hit the wall, then we could really separate. Luckily, Kill Saw Slots Heavens B is actually what separates us. So I think he hits it, and then the fork bounces them out, and then we can actually start fighting. But it's so interesting. I literally took my hands off the drive stick, and I was just like, this is what's happening. I can't, I don't know what you expect me to do, unless we're gonna have an official separation here.
Yeah. Ribbot actually hits a floor seam right next to the kill saw slot. Yeah, it hits just a touch. I just slowed it down here. But yeah, it just touches a floor seam, and then it's fair game. Then it's a brand new fight at that point. I find that hilarious that you just take your hands off the controllers and just I guess I'll just hang out here, and look pretty.
Just have a nice power.
All those pounds of handsome. Anyway. But
and then all those pounds or volumes of handsome, and they didn't put the camera on.
I
know. Missed opportunities.
The fluid ounces of handsome.
Speaking of missed opportunities, you need a Purell sponsorship, because I noticed that was at your waistband, and I saw that the whole time.
Yeah. My whole team's vaccinated and such.
Yeah.
We take it seriously. But we don't want anyone to get sick. And, I think that we've all agreed that during the time that everyone was wearing masks, we got less sick, which was cool. So even though it was hot and it was Vegas, the vote unanimously agreed, let's just wear the masks and, be clean and be safe for the duration of filming, because no one wants to get sick, and we don't want any of us to be taken out for the competition.
At that point in the tournament, the proverbial bot flu was hitting many people. It hit me when I went home. It hit Jevin. I can't imagine what it was like in the pits, because it's just we're all we're all cooped together for 2 weeks. Especially
was it at this point that it hit you, David?
Yeah, I was just sort of comatose during the final a couple of days of recording. I was thinking, there's robots there.
Ooh, pretty lights.
Yeah,
yeah. So whether it be sickness or COVID, we do what we can, and I think it worked out. I think we so none of us got COVID, but we were definitely starting to get a little sniffly, and so we just barely survived it. But yes, my Purell always stays with me. Somewhat ruins photos sometimes, but
oh well.
If I put it in a black holster, maybe. But no, it's pink.
In any case, so Ribbot gets free,
and then you deliver the money shot straight on the front end, and that was kind of fight over. You kind of, and I did notice. Was it intentional? You turn the weapon off, just preserve as much as you can, and just drive them around. Was that all part of the game plan, or when you realize, talk us through it?
Yeah. So we got the good shot on it, and the smoke starts, the weapon stops. At this point, the mentality is, okay, it's just a driving game. I think we've got the design to control them easier. We don't have to worry about the weapon. We can take it pretty chill, but we still need to show weapon aggression, because you can't do nothing. If you have a weapon, you don't use it. It's almost just as bad as having a weapon, or
you wouldn't have any experience with that, would you? At all?
That was a completely different time.
I know.
I'll be happy to talk with you about that after the recording, if you so desire.
That's good.
Out back as well.
We have we can pull off the gas a little bit, but it's not to say that we were completely not using it at all. Two things. One, David did a good job of only showing the front. So he's like, the vertical module isn't working. We take more hits to the vertical module, it's all the same damage, right? It can't be less working, right? It already has a fire, whatever. I don't want to hit the disc because that's hard stuff and it's just going to wear us down. What we'd like to hit drivetrain, but he didn't give us any of that, so that was really nice of him. The other thing is there are forks. You jump straight into us, and actually getting forks into our pivot. So there's a few times where it looks they're slowing down the blade. That's not because we're slowing it down. It's because the fork is just rubbing on the pulley and slowing it down. There's another one where we have this sort of clamp to lock the arm onto the pivot. And he actually puts the fork into it, and so it only goes like this. He's jamming it with his forks. So there's opportunities to fire the weapon. I couldn't do it, and I could see it from where I am. So I'm also not going to try and damage the mechanism by trying to fire it into a fork. I mean, in season 4, that's how Blacksmith knocked our belt off the track, because his fork just pushed it over and tangled them. So, we don't need to rush on this. There'll be opportunities for it, and we'll win control and aggression. Yep. Feeling pretty confident about that. So, yeah, it was just a very smooth fight for us after that.
It does also mean you make your first ever final at this point.
Oh yes.
if memory serves, I think I spoke with Jonathan. When I spoke with Jonathan, he said that their fight was first, so you already knew you were fighting Huge.
Mm-hmm.
Would you have rather fought Copperhead or Huge going into it?
The strategy against Copperhead, we probably had a lot more confidence in, because that's a matchup that you see all the time, whether in small weight classes or, let's say, we could maybe use something similar to what we did against Minotaur. We felt confident in what we could do, and preparation would have been pretty straightforward, I think. Huge is a lot more dicey, so we can talk about it now, or
we'll get. I think we'll get to it. Yeah. We'll get to it in a minute.
Okay.
Because we actually had a lot of questions about that setup, but we'll get to it. In the meantime, I think we should hand over to past us and past Luke and Jonathan as they talk about their fight, Copperhead versus Huge. Luke, Huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
I'll be honest. When we spoke to you last week, we kind of highlighted the fact that it really doesn't suit. I mean, what does Copperhead do against Huge? The answer is, well, what do you do against Huge? You spin backwards.
Die.
Yeah.
is what we do. But leading up to the season, I think they probably edited it out, but like in one of the pre-season interviews, they're like, "Who don't you want to fight?" And I said, "I don't want to fight Endgame, and I don't want to fight Huge. Those were the two robots. Those are the two robots I didn't want to fight." And had we had a little bit more preparation, maybe we could have designed some fancy attachment for Huge or something, but we, like a lot of teams, went through the tournament just hoping that we don't have to fight Huge. And statistically, you have a good chance of not fighting them. But Huge did super well this season.
You did not.
Yeah.
Your statistics did not go in your favor.
Yeah. So leading up to this fight, we learned a couple things about the robot, and that's like, if we break our opponent's weapon, we win. And that's kind of what our strategy was going into this fight. So what we did is we reconfigured the weapon to spin down while we're right side up. The thinking is we wanted to try to do what we've done in our past couple fights and get that double impact force. We were pretty confident that, Copperhead's weapon can take the hits, but Huge has actually had some weapon problems. They've done very, very well. But even if you ask Jonathan, like they were having some spin up problems, like in the Mad Catter fight, their weapon went down. They've been having issues with their bushings. And if Huge's weapon breaks, they're not out pushing anybody. They don't have the ability to push or control a fight if their weapon breaks. So in our mind, the only thing we could do was break their weapon. And the way to do that, in my mind, was to reconfigure the speed controller to spin down. Ideally, we'd want to have the ability to spin in both directions, but we didn't have enough time. We didn't have enough time to reconfigure the transmitter, reconfigure the speed controller. We had the ability to do it. It's just I didn't have the expertise to pull it off in such a short time frame.
Rory, help.
Yeah, but it's not just Rory too, because
it's
not just that. You also have to reconfigure the transmitter to do it. And our transmitter is very complicated. It's OpenTX with 1,000 different reprogrammed settings. At one point in the tournament, I had to call Zach because I couldn't figure out what all the buttons were doing.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh no, flip that one switch and it'll. I was like, oh okay. I probably should have figured this out before going to
tape that one down and don't touch it again.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So leading up to the fight, we reconfigure the weapon to spin down, and of course, as we're loading it in the test box, the entire Huge team is watching us like a hawk. So I'm like trying to drive the robot in the test box. I'm trying to turn the weapon away from them so they can't get a good view, and then just spin it up really fast. If you spin it up fast enough, maybe they won't notice it's spinning the wrong direction. But of course, they instantly noticed. And so it's like, oh, well, I guess there goes the element of surprise. But anyway, we still did what we were still trying to pull off that strategy, but they saw what we were doing. And I think Jonathan later noticed, he's like, oh yeah, we did notice that. And we adjusted our strategy accordingly. But I don't know if it would have mattered. This was a Hail Mary chance. Saw what
it kind of worked originally.
Yeah.
I mean, it also involves me being able to drive directly into their weapon. That's the other aspect of this.
You got to pay the toll, man. You can't win if you don't pay the toll.
And I don't think I did a great job doing that. But they also were trying to counter that. They knew what was coming, so they adjusted their strategy accordingly. And I think in the first 10 seconds of the fight, they instantly got one of our drive chains. They instantly got a drive chain. So then we were down a drive side. So then I am just trying to frantically do anything I can, just anything. Just try not to die. And at one point, we got the robot up on the side. Our vertical spinner became a horizontal spinner.
Yes, that was it. I was like, oh my god, you can try this.
I would like to say that we did that on purpose, but that was just a complete accident. But I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. We just made our robot almost able to hit Huge. Complete accident. But then later in the fight, they smashed in our weapon pulley. So we'd never had that happen before. I know the Huge team was a little bit worried because we have actually really thick pulley guards. So they're not used to fighting vertical spinners that have a lot of protection guarding their pulleys. But Copperhead does. But they got a direct hit on our pulley guard, smashed it in, and it seized up the belt. If you watch carefully, you just see a whole bunch of smoke shoot out of Copperhead. It's actually the belt grinding up against the smashed in pulley guard. So we lost the drive side. They disabled our weapon, and then shortly after that, they hit our other drive chain. So they disabled every single system on our robot with ease. Like, they just completely annihilated us. Like, we had a strategy. It wasn't a good strategy, but we had to try something.
Yeah.
But in the long run, huge is just the perfect counter to our robot, and it was a long shot. I think there's a builders poll. I think the builders had huge beating us like 80-20 or something like that, and rightfully so. We got our butts whooped, and that's okay, because I like to see crazy robots like huge do well.
Yeah, as do we. I like seeing. I will say I feel bad that they sniped that last chain and you were just dead on the side. But to see the elation when they knew they had actually completed the full, just dismemberment of your machine without actually doing serious damage to anything visible, just take out the bits that make things work.
They broke every mechanical system on Copperhead, and good for them. I don't think any robot has really done that. We've had like electrical bits fail, maybe one drive side go down, but they took off both our drive sides and our weapon. They got us everywhere.
Yeah. Also, I like Jonathan on your team. He did his best Clyde Madison impression. That was
yeah.
And we saw Billy.
We saw Billy. I know some real robot combat fans, like they've seen Billy in the background, so they're like, "Oh, there's Billy. What's up with that?" And they're like, "Well, Jonathan's on our team." And we were running out of
the box.
Yeah, we were running out of like fun walkout things to do. So I think it was a Riptide fight where we hoisted Billy up in the air, and I'm sure a lot of the production was very confused at what we were doing, but I think diehard fans of the sport would understand.
Absolutely.
But what a run. A semifinal for Copperhead. About it.
Yeah, it's funny. Like when we had by far the best season we'd ever had with the fewest team members, the least number of parts,
the oldest robot,
oldest robot. So, it was incredible. We're so happy. We actually made a merch store. So, make sure you check out Copperhead merchandise, because now people actually want to buy our stuff.
I suppose we'll move on to Copperhead. Now, I remember when I first saw the final, I messaged you not long afterwards, and the thing you said straight away was that my driving in the Copperhead fight is probably some of my best ever. Elaborate a bit on that.
Oh, yeah, I can. So you can see, if you watch all of Huge's fights in a row in the season, you can definitely see me start to develop strategies. With Shatter, there was a lot more running away, and then later on, I was staying in more close to people and stuff. And it was when we were fighting Fusion, we had the opportunity to spin down on the open top, and we didn't do it because it's the nice thing to do is to not poke someone like that once they're already dead. But it just kind of put it back in our head a little bit of like, we can spin down on people. And we were able to bait Mad Catter under and pull off some pieces. And I tried it again against Copperhead, and they went under. And we stole the chain right at the beginning of the fight from one of their drive wheels. And I mean, that's the type of stuff where people say, oh, the fight was a stomp, whatever, it was really close. Like even Copperhead had their AMA and they were saying that they got destroyed, but it's like, we got very lucky that the blade landed on that piece. Right? And it's a different fight if they're fully mobile. But from there, now that they're not that mobile, that's where I felt like I did a great job with the driving, because we were able to kind of hunt for the other chain and hunt for the belt, and I was able to gyro over the top and land on the top plate, which I've always wanted to do and never gotten many chances to do. And like, I felt like I got to pull out all my moves,
show off the driving skills. I remember when we spoke to Luke for this section of the podcast, he said that I think this was the first time that all three kind of elements of Copperhead have broken in one fight. So obviously one drive chain went straight away. Yeah. The weapon died because you bent in the belt guard and it was just rubbing in, and it just eventually just seized, the weapon stopped, and then you got the other chain just for good measure as well. And a sad little Copperhead parked against the wall. Yeah, and I was like, oh well, that's it then.
I was not thinking that we could get the belt guard on the front. Also, like seeing it's probably has to be at least a quarter of an inch thick, and it's completely welded in place. And I just wanted to kind of cram when he was up on his side. I was like, I can cram the blade.
You tried to be horizontal to try and kill you. I love it.
Right, but now the belt's exposed, right? So I crammed the blade in behind the drum. I'll get the belt. That was my thought. Didn't happen like that. And then where the fact that it did happen was like very convenient. But I was hunting the other drive chain. So if they had zoomed out more near the end of the fight, I was just sitting and watching him turn and kind of timing it. And it was on the first attempt I missed. But then the second attempt just found home. And that was why I freaked out immediately, because we could see right there
it was
little pieces of chain like rocket at the glass right in front of us. So we knew it's like, all right, the chain's gone, you know, and we knew what we were aiming for. So chain's gone, job done. Huge is good now.
One more to go. We've heard a lot from Jonathan and Luke. Let's talk about the final. Now, before we get to you, Jamison, I'm going to put back to Jonathan's perspective, and then we'll come back and we'll hear what you have to say about your take on things. So let's hear from Jonathan one more time. One more to go, which was the only robot in the field that, after about one fight, that could still reach you.
Yeah.
How annoying. We secretly
how inconvenient. We planned this whole story arc. Huge kills the verts, and we get to the finals and there's not a vert. It's like, this is so inconvenient.
I mean, were you secretly hoping that Ribbot won? Just like
they were filming us. Like they filmed when we were sitting in our pit. They were filming us watching Riptide versus Copperhead, and us saying, you know, yeah, we've lost to Riptide. It was a weird fight, but I'd prefer not to have the rematch. I'd rather fight Copperhead. They have all the exposed chains. And then they filmed us freaking out on that fight. And then they're filming us for SawBlaze versus Ribbot. And I just openly said, and I believe it, I think Ribbot is a better matchup for us. And I'm rooting for Ribbot. And then just we watched the fight, and they spin in place for a full minute and then immediately killed it.
And that was the end, yeah.
Damn it. So yeah, we had the robot like naked at that point because the blade and the wheels were going to depend on who we were fighting. So I think we had it mostly reassembled by the time SawBlaze came back in the building. Because we knew.
Well, when you see SawBlaze in the configuration that it was, I mean, it's a different look, certainly.
Yeah, it's definitely going to go down in those like tornado cage level.
I don't know. I don't think it. I think it's
well,
it shouldn't do. But yeah, I agree.
Not
with
in a controversy sense at all. It's not controversial. I'll say that completely. Just in the sense of just an absolute Hail Mary in the finals, never tested this before type thing, and then for it to actually work out, it's like that's the stuff that wins you championships. Is that kind of modification, because there's nothing stopping anybody else from having built a wedge like that. But not like Copperhead could have done anything with it.
I was imagining Copperhead with like a big like scaffolding style. It would look so wrong.
I just tip it over at that point.
You say, you know, it was the Hail Mary. For the first minutes or so of that fight, it was so huge, his fight. It was so huge. You know, SawBlaze is doing backflips over the top of you. I'm like, oh my god, it's happening. Huge is gonna secure the bag. I can't believe it. And then it was for a good while. It was looking so good, but as soon as the thing is with Huge, as we've kind of discussed before, if you can get to it, there's not a lot at the top, because obviously you don't armor it up expecting someone to hit you, because no one can hit you.
Right. The pulley, like, what's your pulley guard? The blade, like that's
You've got to reach me first, and then you've got to get through the weapon as well.
Right. And
yeah,
5 people can reach me, maybe 10, like of everybody, and then you still have to get through the blade and everything. But it's a bet. I mean, like a lot of teams make that bet. A lot of Whiplash, Bite Force, they're all made of like paper thin aluminum, right? And if they get hit, it's bad. But when they win, you know, what does winning look like? They don't get hit in the first place. Like, so you might as well make that bet and make you better at not getting hit in the first place. And that's why all that weight is in the blade and in the motors to spin it up in 2 seconds. And I made a driving mistake and let him get in there. and that was that.
it was a spectacular fight. I think it was easily the best final of the reboot, if not one of the best fights of the entire season and the reboot as a whole as well. Like, you know, the fact that there's so much on it as well, I think adds to the drama, and this fact that SawBlaze has got away and changed. Obviously you've stuck with your guns throughout the entire thing. It's still huge.
Yep. We were debating a lot. It's like, do we do something crazy? And everyone's just like, hey, you won every fight with this huge. Like, just you'll regret it for the rest of your life if you do something stupid and it loses it for you somehow. So absolutely. Stick with what's winning. Stick with what you know, and that's a hard choice to make. You know, we've second guessed it a lot. Of like, could we have changed something in the config or something like that? I think I have some plans now of what a round 2 would look like, but I don't think there's anything we could have known at the time that would have, changed how we approached it. Like, we've never seen any config like that before. What are we going to do besides hit it as hard as we can?
Just do the same thing you've been doing all season, really.
Right. It's clearly winning fights. It's working. I mean, we've never... The hardest thing this huge had ever hit was like Switchback or Captain Shredderator before. We don't know the limits on it until this season there. And we're progressively finding those limits against those fights where it was breaking itself. And now actually knowing those things and knowing how we can make it spin up faster and knowing how we can keep the motors alive longer, I feel like it's a fight where we could turn it around and win that in the future. But he's obviously not going to sit still and let
you have at it,
right.
Sort of thing, right? I was listening to Outside the Box this week. Obviously, you mentioned there that there was not one single thought that crossed your mind about appealing. Incredibly classy. Were you disappointed with second? Like, if someone had said to you at the start of the season, Huge going to finish second but lose a judge's decision in the final,
and a bunch of 6-5 cards on the judge's decision,
right? Like, would you have taken second at the start, or does your goals and your aspirations have to change because of the way that Huge was the entire season?
That's a good way to frame it and question it, because I think leading into the season, we were much more in the mentality of something to prove and something to prove to ourselves as well, about that we could all do this and compete at this level and compete, not winning 2 fights in the regular season and get to the bracket, sneak in, like compete. I would have been overjoyed if you had told me that before the season. I think it's just, seeing 8 straight wins, you get a little disappointed that you can't win the last one. But I don't know, appealing just felt
it wasn't moral.
Yeah. And also you can look at it in so many different ways. Is one, it's not fair to Jamison to go argue how he won. 2, we honestly thought we lost anyways. Just go doing the scores in our head. We thought we lost. But purely selfish. I appeal, I win. Jamison hates me forever.
You are the most hated person in history of BattleBots.
How can I look at that giant nut with pride, unless they had missed something drastic, right? And they had not missed something drastic. SawBlaze worked. It was a taco compared to how it started the fight.
Goodness. Wasn't it just?
It was a pretzel, but it was working, and the scoring gauge is working, and it worked. So I didn't have any angle where I could say, no, you're wrong. Here's why. It's just, no, you're wrong. Give me the trophy instead because something, right? And I don't know. I couldn't look at that giant nut and say, I earned that. That's mine. We emphatically won the final. Hooray! It's like, no, I convinced some judges that they had made a mistake. Like it would be an asterisk forever. So in so many ways, we had even as a team talked about this before going out there. And saying,
really?
I don't think that it would be right. And we hadn't used our appeal all season, obviously. It's like, it just wouldn't be right to do it probably. And everyone's like, I think that's the right thing to do.
Unless it was a Stonewall, you've made a mistake because of this reason.
Right.
You
Regius, SawBlaze is a ball of fire.
Yeah.
We have our things with the judges where we see things slightly differently sometimes. I see a lot more control in Huge driving than sometimes they do, because I know what I'm trying to do and how that looks different from everybody else. Famously, Huge had its split decision win over free shipping way back when. And they were, not joking, upside down and on fire for the vast majority of the fight, and Huge came out fully functional. And one judge said that free shipping should have won. And it's like, okay, clearly we disagree here on some criteria. Because that was one other judge away from it being free shipping winning, as the fire extinguishers are going and they're wheeling it outside on fire. So in those ways, like, I'm always ready to argue if I feel like we had more control than we get scored for, but I just didn't. It didn't look like I had control. Like, honestly, it looked closer on the show and watching it than it felt in person. Like, in person, we felt like we were getting stomped from the moment we lost the belts, just because it wasn't what that first minute was. I just didn't realize, if I had to do it over again and say we're not caught up in the moment or something like that, having more calmness in the driving for the last minute to minute and a half might have helped us, because I was driving like I was losing, and I was desperate and trying to get a 1 in a million shot on the bottom of it when it's tipped over, which gets me right up in his face, that type of stuff. And if I hadn't driven like that for the last minute or so, we probably would have come out of it better, taking more risks.
With the pressures on and everything, and the lights are in your face, and you're like, oh my god, SawBlaze is chasing after me with this, disgusting weapon that's going to break me in half if I'm not careful. I can appreciate the stress level.
And so the thought is, I'll hit him with whatever I have, and it's not a lot, but hopefully something happens. Whereas more tactical driving, right, would argue that I should just set a pick with the wheel and just bike rack him for a long time, right? Like that's I was driving more to say I need to find a knockout somehow. And it wasn't a knockout isn't coming.
It is second, but I mean, what an amazing season, Jonathan. It's been a joy watching Huge all year.
We're runner-up forever. Look at the people in the runner-up list. We're, Minotaur's runner-up, Witch Doctor's runner-up, Tombstone, we're runner-up with Huge. And that's
does that like
still an achievement?
Like, do you still have to pinch yourself a little bit and just be like, there was that enormous leap forward of this season compared to everything else? Is it still like, oh my god, like we did that?
Oh my god, yeah. Maddie and I around the house every once in a while, she'll say like, isn't it weird that we got like second? That happened 6 months ago, right? But it's so, our perceptions of Huge and our place in this BattleBots ecosystem has always been having something to prove still, and it's hard to break that habit.
Absolutely.
I don't think we've embraced in any way like we're second, we're the best ever. There's so many things we still want to change and fix on the robot. So I think that's the right mindset going forwards. Just still act like we have something to prove and
watch out the rest of the season. I think rest of the field, right?
Have a little bit more fun.
So Jamison, this whole fight. I mean, first of all, what a final!
Let's talk about
what a final this is.
We finally really got one. Like we always talk about, we get to the final and then something happens to one of the bots, and it's we wanted that real good knockout, drag out fight.
Yeah,
I think we finally got one, man. We got one. 7 years, and we really, really got a good one. Yeah, because I mean, for TV's sake, and any form of the word, it's just nice to see two teams really just go all out and go just about the whole distance, right? Just go the whole way and leave it in the hands of the judges and have no controversy whatsoever.
Well, you say that because
leave it in the hands of the judges. But
the final could have been overturned with the appeals process, which I hadn't really thought about until we got to that stage and they asked the question, are you going to appeal this? And I thought, oh yeah, that's the thing that could happen.
The pit in your stomach,
that would really undercut the whole thing, wouldn't it?
But
I mean, first of all, we have to, I think before we get to the judge's decision itself, the setup.
Yeah, the lead up.
We had so many questions. We'll start with Michael Duddy on YouTube, who asks, how on earth did you decide on the configuration for Huge? And were you scared to implement it? Because it's the final. Like, ultimately, if you win it and you look like a hero, but if you lose, it's such a big risk. I mean, talk us through it.
Well, so we'll go through a few things. So preseason, we have a list of competitors, including the alternates that we know who are going to be there, and just doing a little bit of pre-planning just to make things go a little bit faster. We have the spreadsheet where we believe if they have the ability to change a configuration, what we expect they will run, and then an idea of what we will use against it. And sometimes it's not always like a hard counter sort of thing. It's just what we would run typically. So like say, for example, the drum spinners, we're probably going to use our most durable set of forks. So for huge, the only thing we have down there, because we don't have the time or the money to necessarily make specifically dedicated setups ahead of time. You never know if you're going to fight someone. Your design will change season to season. If you don't use it, it's basically just scrap. So for the huge row, it says wedge ? And that's more or less what we did. So after we won that other fight, we just came back to the pit and we opened up a page in a notebook, and then we just started doodling. So there's a big circle that represented huge, and we have a picture of this. I'll probably put it online later. And I drew like our plows, little C-shaped thing, and said like, how do we make this not hit this? And it's like, well, let's just put something in the way, and then there's this tumbleweed looking thing just in this area. Put something here, and then once the blade stops, we need to do something. How are we going to attack it? Because you can't keep the blade charged up the whole time. That seems risky. So let's just get our capture, our capture technique that we do for everything, and we can just use the eyelashes, but we need to make them taller because the angle of the eyelashes is pretty forward to block the big spinners. So we need to make it longer. So it's like, all right, so what we need to do is we need to find how we can get material to make longer eyelashes. And we need to, where the heck is Eli? And after the fight, he just pieced out to Home Depot or whatever. He sends us a picture. He said, hey, I'm at the bike rack making section here. What do you guys want? And he just sends us a picture of all the mild steel and rebar.
No.
So just like, all right, let's get one of these, Like we're on the phone, because the finalists, right? The film crew is just like in our pit, like on us the entire time. Like I'm on the phone, I'm just like, yeah, get us a few sticks of rebar and like that 1/4-inch flat of whatever, and we'll just make it work. So at that point, the strategy was drawn, sketched, confirmed. Because we also didn't know if Huge was planning on changing anything also. So that was a big variable is, okay, they've been using the big blade the entire time. We know that previous fights, they have a short one, like Son of Wache uses a short one. What if they just skip everything completely and just want to go for the arm pivot? So it's like, that's why, although I think the wedge would have been fine as is, it's pretty tall, it's a steep wedge, but we had decided to raise it up because we want to predict the ability to use the short one. So it was as high as we believed that they would have a blade, the shortest blade, after the normal size wheels and chassis. There's no reason why they would use the smaller wheels. They're going to use the full size nominal wheels. Maybe this blade, the shortest blade they have, would land somewhat about here. And it's like, all right, I think this is going to be the catch-all for the possibilities that they could do. So we made we tried to predict, we made an informed decision about what we would run. And like in practice, it seemed like it was probably I think that's what we want to do. Shoot, what are my other 2 points? Do we know it was going to work? So on that note, I think I told someone else this as well. It's not about if we thought it would work. It's about what we thought our chances were if we did nothing. And to that point, this isn't the first time I fought Huge before. Smaller weight class, certainly. I fought him 4 times or more. So the strategy in my mind, and as demonstrated also by Whiplash, there's a way to get in there and just stay engaged. My plan has always been to stay under the body. When you tank a hit, and you just stay under the body, and then you can just deliver hits because we have our articulated, which means that we can spin up and he can't.
Mm-hmm.
This season's huge was way stronger than any other huge in history. Stronger than the 30 pounder, stronger than any of the 250s, any of the BattleBots huges that has ever been fielded. So we did not feel confident that running SawBlaze as it was would be able to withstand those hits. I mean, obviously we also don't need the forks. So forks come off, put it somewhere else. We need the eyebrows, and we need something sufficient to tank the hits. We took the wedge, literally the wedge we use for the horizontal spinners. We shifted one of the bolt holes. We have extra holes all over the place for this purpose. We shifted it, and we used the rebar to hold it in place. We also welded the pivot completely. That didn't last. So we put our shoulder bolts in there. We welded it into the high position. We reinforced it with mild steel, flat and rebar, and that was it. So that was the plan. It's all SawBlaze parts. This is SawBlaze configuration. I know there's a lot of talk about. Oh, is this legal? Like introducing something completely new? No, I don't think so. Robots
tornado cage all over again.
Oh god, we don't want to go
I
back
don't even
to
think
cage
it's as bad as
again.
the tornado cage.
Right.
I don't even know if it's that bad. Like the tornado cage is like negating an entire feature of the arena, which there's trade-offs as well. I mean, Tornado's weapon couldn't reach very far if they wanted to.
No,
but people they make modifications to robots all the time. And one thing I would say about this is all SawBlaze parts, just built in a different way.
Yeah.
SawBlaze is designed to do that. It's all the same stuff, it's just attached in a different manner. So it is what we brought to competition.
Absolutely, and honestly, it absolutely worked. I mean, okay, I have to ask, for that sort of first minute-ish, were you quietly thinking, "Oh my god, what have I done?" Because obviously,
we just made a huge catch point for their weapon. Oh no!
Yeah,
right.
Was there an element of that?
But that's the point.
Yeah,
right. That is the point exactly.
You trapped it eventually. That was the whole thing.
Yeah. So I'll take a break. I do want to say thank you to Horizon for selling us Tegris, and also thanks to Switchback and Hijinks for the bandsaw, including the blade that we broke trying to cut it. But that is exactly the point, is to catch it. We want to take all the energy out, so the front will get mangled completely. And it was there's micro adjustments you can make in a fight. So we went to the first engagements were full charge in, which normally for fighting certain kinds of spinners is something that I wouldn't do, but this is a very special case. So we want to stop their weapon. We're just going to need to go all in. And it engaged very, very well. It was a very big catch point, and it threw the robot in the air. And that's all fine, because there's lots of different ways. Like, we're just searching for ways to get rid of energy, right? So some robots are literally immovable objects, and so the reaction force is absorbed completely into two machines, part into huge, part into the other robot. In this case, we are absorbing energy, but also dissipating energy in height and rotation. So he kicks us he throws us in the air, and we roll a bunch. It's just ways of getting rid of energy, so it's less damage onto our mechanics. And that's fine and everything, but hugest spin up time, I think, is advertised as 3 seconds this year for their setup, which is insanely good. The fact that it could do that much damage and it spins up so fast. We could not re-engage fast enough because we are being disrupted. So basically, every single time we stop the blade, we have 3 seconds to get in there again, so we can start to implement our strategy. So it throws us in the air. That's no good. So what was the micro adjustment? What's the change here? Is to change the engagement speed so that it lifts the robot, but slides against the underside instead, which is what we did on the last engagement that essentially got us that pin. So there's sparks, the sustained sparks happening because he's just lifting the robot, making sparks. He rolls us over once, but we're still in position to do exactly what we want. So we roll us over, and then we go in, and that's where we get the pin. And that's the pin that changed the entire match.
Yep. All of a sudden, belts disappear, and Huge has,
and then it's a different fight.
One motor just spinning in the wind, and the other one's, trying to do work for two. And I mean, from there on out, it's pick your spots, and just I was worried about this fight for you, JMO, because we had just seen this version of Huge do what to your brother in Saw I can only assume is an early funeral. It just completely eviscerated Scorpios. And
which I was surprised about, actually, the speed at which it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the damage was in Scorpios, but they're known for being incredibly durable, and that was a surprise to me.
Yeah, but then you go through this fight, and you get that one pin, and you really take advantage of it. That's one of those things where, like, championship teams in any sport, whether it's combat or not, you have to take advantage of the opportunities you're given. And in that moment, your brain and your synapses firing in your brain said, "This is the shot." And from then on, it's a
different fight. As
different fight.
As soon as those weapon belts go, it transforms the fight. And honestly, it was just the way you described it. Made it sound so calculated. And I know at the time you must have been stressing out. And, oh my god, what's going on? But it just seems so you seem very cool about it.
When the robot gets tossed, the thing that I'm checking for is, does everything still work? Because the point of the cradle. I don't know why I call it the cradle. I guess I did. It is to take hits where we want them. There's always strategy. Why don't you go for the wheels? Why don't you just drive around it? And that all sounds great on paper. But when you do that, you open your robot up to getting hit anywhere else. And for this fight, and really most fights, we prefer to control the damage by controlling where we get hit. Maybe it's not always a favorable engagement, but the robot is designed to take hits on the front. And if we get hit anywhere else, it's a really bad time. So going for the blade, if we go for the wheels, Jonathan does a technique that he's perfected at this point, which he did very well in the beginning, is to give you the huge shoulder. He turns the wheel towards you, and as we found out later, we can just push against that. But he keeps the blade safe. He allows it to spin up. He doesn't need to do it for too long, so then he can hit you with it. And so if we tried to target the wheels specifically, there's a good chance that we would go in too far, and he would just drive around us, hit the side. So similar to where he actually hit us on our battery side of the robot, it was pretty close, but our wires were safe. Instances like that, it's like, all right, we can't let that happen again. That's too close. So taking it on the front, where we have like 70 pounds of steel in the front for any given SawBlaze fight. Most of the weight is in the front armor. That's where we want to get hit. So every time we got hit, we got flipped, tossed. We went over Huge. I think the highest part of the robot.
So good. Yeah, went over the wheel. It was brilliant.
Vertical spinner is the best flipper.
Apparently,
it's when every time the robot still had all of its function working, I wouldn't sweat until something is missing.
Very fair. Very fair. All of that does mean we go to a judge's decision.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, obviously, I think you were kind of celebrating a little bit at the end, because I think, looking at the fight, you'd done enough. The fact that Huge wasn't functional on one side and you still were. Okay, yes, they could still spin and they could drive on the one side. If the other wheel's still working, it could be different. But I think that functional damage, as we kind of have seen throughout the season, has been very consistent. If you have a functional part broken, then you're not going to win.
Was it functional damage because they blinded Huge? That's
rude.
Hit
his eyes out. Come on,
go for the eyes.
Yeah, go for the eyes, Chiquita. So you win.
So we were celebrating because the front worked. Like if they kept the audio for that, we were like, yes, like the front did what it was supposed to do. Like that was the main part of it. And we felt like we did pretty good by the end, but we took a big risk in that.
Absolutely.
It started dicey, as you guys have noticed, but it ended up functioning exactly how we predicted, and that was definitely worth celebrating.
100%, 100%. And then the decision comes through. It's a unanimous win for SawBlaze.
Yep.
After all this, I mean, I have to ask. I didn't brief you beforehand. Do you have the nut with you?
I do. It's just it's in the back behind me.
Excellent.
Should I go get it?
Yeah, go for it. Go on. Go on then. Go on then. I think the fans need to see.
Might need to turn the camera thing off, or maybe it'll just recognize.
Oh, look at that! Oh, it's very shiny, yeah. Beautiful,
very shiny.
It must have felt very good. I mean, obviously, we've all seen the evolution of yourself and SawBlaze. I mean, first of all, let's go to this next slide because when you first see SawBlaze turn up, it is first of all it is gargantuan compared to. I mean, not that SawBlaze is small now, but it was large. And then you look at it compared to now, it must have been very satisfying and sweet that you've taken this concept, which isn't the most popular, to the top.
Yeah, that first version, so that's the Season 2 SawBlaze that barely got any airtime from the ABC. That one's maybe 5 feet wide, 4 feet from the end to the tip. It was a very big robot. I think in BattleBots' characterization of how big is your robot, they're like, are you SawBlaze Bronco sized or something else? So it was very big and it was clunky. That one, that was like most of the teams that were new, was built on a very short time scale. So all things were rushed together, and drivetrain was good. That's always been a staple of SawBlaze. The weapon wasn't quite there yet, and got better in Season 3 when we programmed the control a little bit more effectively. But it's come a long way.
It really has. It really, really has. I mean, the fact that, as you said, SawBlaze 1, it had that, we might discuss it off air, but it had that fight with Razorback all the way back when, to now where it's almost, as we kind of mentioned, it's almost expected that SawBlaze just does well. And it's kind of a really cool thing. And, the fact that you've taken a robot, which, again, they made a whole point of it just before the final. It is not the meta. It's not 4-wheel drive and a vertical spinner.
It's the meta breaker, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And
that's the thing with both of these bots that made the final. They are meta breaking designs, and they did drum that up in the episode where we had that cut in before the final where it's the field is dominated by the 4-wheel drive vertical spinner,
which feels a little bit weird for Tantrum being a little bit of a
well, there are twists on it.
I wouldn't call Tantrum a 4-wheel drive.
Not really, no.
I also thought it was funny just to hear Farouk say 4-wheel drive vertical spinner.
That is a bunch of words for Farouk to say.
Yeah.
It's like, I really loved that segment. That was amazing. I didn't expect it at all. I don't know if I would say SawBlaze. I don't think it's a meta breaker. I would say it's not meta. I think Huge is a meta breaker. Yeah. SawBlaze still plays to some aspects of the meta, but I'd say it sustains against it. So it's like, various definitions of meta breaking. I don't know if it really dominates it, but it does well. It's not easy for sure. I guess top attack robots, is that meta breaking? Does that break them? I don't know.
It's a bit different, isn't it?
It breaks something.
It's very different. It breaks a lot of things.
Battery breaker.
Breaks a lot of things. Yeah. We do have some more listener questions, which we'll move on to now before we wrap up.
Yeah. Also, I love your team's reaction to this win. I mean, I can see you. I can see you mouthing, "Come on, please."
Yeah.
It's just like all this work, all this time, all the struggles, and I've talked a bunch during these episodes where you guys had such trouble with traction this year, and trying to figure out how to get this thing to just drive and not shred its wheels, and it's been quite a journey up to this point, and then having to make this. All this craziness before this final fight and trying to make this contraption to fight Huge. I'm sure it was a huge sigh of relief and just this explosion of joy.
It's all those energy drinks,
terrible
right?
For Jonathan.
Well,
all the energy drinks.
Yeah,
it's all worth it. Sometimes I'm sure most people can agree with this. You always wonder, should I do this? Like, will it be worth it or not? And this is one of those cases where all those cases where we asked if we should, we did, and they were all very important. So it's crazy to look back and think, if we didn't do any one of these things, and we just kind of said, we're tired, that's where it would be completely different. If we didn't do anything in the huge fight, it'd be different. If we didn't fix the wheels, it'd be very different.
That was a whole thing. We had a load of questions about the wheels throughout the season. The fact that you turned it around from shredding your tires at the start of the season to at the end you were bullying people around.
You post that video where you're just trying to stick things over the tires and nothing is adhering to whatever whatever mix you guys have made for your tires. And it's just heartbreaking to watch, where it's just like, oh man, they just want the thing to drive. Just want it to work.
Let's don't get me wrong, these are fantastic tires too. Maybe for a different kind of robot. We put down we have so much acceleration now. We put down so much power that we just roll the wheels, and that relative motion is what's abrading it. These wheels are they're fantastic. They're really grippy. They're durable. They got hit by Minotaur and they're fine. It proves that these wheels were a great change. So I do want to thank Murillo for helping over in Brazil for helping us make these. Just that for our use, we probably put a lot more abuse into it than maybe what they were originally designed for. And so, not that they weren't bad wheels, they just they needed a little bit of little extra for our
little TLC.
Yeah. They're fantastic wheels.
Yeah,
absolutely. So let's start with Steve Dufort on Facebook, and Steve asks, what innovation over the years has made the biggest difference in SawBlaze's effectiveness?
Ooh, biggest innovation. Wow.
Hard to maybe focus in on just one thing.
Right.
Probably.
Yeah, it's a whole bunch of things. We'll say I think the hammer saw development. I think that changed it a lot. It changed how we operate the robot, certainly, and we can get more aggression points because we can use it more. But also with the saw blade itself, for half the fight or most of the fights, it's we're protecting this percentage of weight. It was maybe like 40 pounds, maybe like 40, 45, 50 pounds of weight behind the robot that just can't be touched by anything. It's so delicate. There's a motor there. The blade is like a wafer. If it gets touched by anything, it bends, it jams. We lose the weapon. We'll probably lose the fight. And so having something that's more durable, that could do damage or at least take a hit, was really important for us to be able to win these judges' decisions. SawBlaze doesn't score a lot of knockouts as is, so you need to win as many points as you can across all the categories. I think that just simply being more durable and simply being able to be more aggressive was really important for the robot. No, so the tombstone fight in season 4. So we make a corner, make a turn in the corner. The saw blade touches the wall while it's spinning, and the teeth bent already.
Oh no! It's in the wall. Oh no!
That's how fragile it was. It's a great cutting blade. You just can't touch it. Literally nothing can touch it, otherwise it doesn't work.
Or not, at least not in the other plane.
Yeah, it can't
where you actually want it to go.
Hit from the wrong angle.
Yeah, I mean, if we hammered it down, I think it would probably blow up the teeth also. Like the cutting fin. It's not really the teeth. It's a diamond blade, but it has these vents cut into it so that they cool it down, and that's where we see the most bending, and so it just get ruined so quickly.
Steve, do you want to take the next one?
Yeah. So Ace Trainer Banana on Twitter says, now that you're the champion, are you ready for the most brutal schedule that you've ever seen next season?
Well, we've had a pretty brutal schedule.
I was going to say
already.
I was going to say, can it get worse? Wait and see.
I have a theory based on all the on the seasons that we've been a part of. I mean, I've technically been a part of every reboot season because I was on Overhaul the first.
Right.
Season.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've had a chance to see. Yes, Team Jacked. We are jacked. for it, I thought the handshake thing was really confusing because I didn't know he was going to do that.
Oh yeah.
I'm just some poor guy at the hammer just making sounds the whole time. Right. I don't think it worked. My theory, based on seeing all these fights and all the fight nights for every single robot, is the next season they give you the robots which are what you almost had, robots.
Okay.
So, for example, I think Huge they may see a rematch against Riptide. They may also fight Endgame because they almost had Endgame if Copperhead did not win, sort of thing.
Right.
So that's an example. So for us, since Huge won over Copperhead, we might get Copperhead. Or robots such as since Monsoon beat Cobalt, we might get something like that as well. And of course, there's the Ripperoni is the new uppercut sort of thing. So the robots like that, I believe that we might fight, and they're very deadly machines. It would be a tough schedule that might fit in exactly what the listener was saying.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Are they still a listener if they're speaking? Are they
that's true. I guess we've never really, split that up. But,
it's a new thing.
That's a good question to ask.
We have to pick for
We're kind of their proxy.
Oh, stop! It's a taco. That's the common thing.
Taco.
Right? Yeah.
If you have 2 pieces of lasagna and you stack them, is it 1 or 2 pieces of lasagna?
Oh, this is the deep questions.
Do you have to split it with something? Like, is it a sandwich? Like if we put like a something in between the 2 pieces of lasagna?
Oh man, it's lasagna sandwich.
If we keep going like this, we're going to be asking J-Mo whether he likes pineapple on pizza again.
Do you like pineapple on a pizza?
I shouldn't have.
We're going
I think
there now.
it changes. It changes it.
Yeah, it shouldn't work, but it does sometimes.
Sometimes. I was also introduced this past weekend to soup dumplings with cream cheese in it.
Interesting.
That's a strong combination.
That is incredibly different.
Interesting.
Like a Philadelphia roll, but for soup dumplings.
Right? Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh man.
It depends what soup you have it with, I guess.
Well, it was you ever had the soup dumplings, like dumplings, and they have like a soup inside of it?
Yeah.
It was widely variant across the table. This is the post-Destructathon, so we had, we had the crew folks there. We had like Bunny and David and other David, actually another David too. I had all the David.
There's a lot of Davids.
So many Davids.
David
Even
Rush,
this one.
David
Yeah,
Small.
I'm not on Malice team though.
Yeah.
One day.
So some were saying it's great. Some were saying it's not real because there's no cheese in Asian food. So widely variant. Anyways,
imaginary dumplings.
Derailed the conversation.
It's all good.
It's all, we love talking about
this is
food
the content
here.
the listeners
This
want.
is the true content.
I feel like we divert to food pretty often, but it's all good.
It's because we normally record around dinner time. That's why.
It's a thing that brings everyone together.
It's true.
It happens.
David, do you want to take what was Jevon's question?
Yes, I will, because it applies to me as well on this. So, friend of the podcast, Craig Croucher, asked, do you see a viable future for hammers in the sport, or do you see hammer saws as just the general future for the weapon type?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's tough.
The percussion style
saws...
weapon has really evolved over the years. I feel like the hammer saw is like the natural evolution.
Hammer saw, I mean, it's not for free, right?
No.
So certainly with things like the tantrum puncher or the hammer saw, any sort of weapon that's delivered with additional actuation, it's not for free. If you want to use it as liberally as a hammer, they need to be built incredibly well, and that of course comes out of somewhere. There's additional complexity with building the hammer saw architecture. And most cases, it's that level of optimization where you can't just fire it into another spinner. We look at something like Beta versus Kraken, where Jason fires it right into the weapon, and it breaks Kraken's weapon, which is very cool. Beta's, the more blade pill, it gets bent, which is fine because, I mean, honestly, like the hammer end is semi-disposable. You look at how Shatter uses their weapon against Huge or most other spinners, they fire it just right into it, and that's that sort of action where a hammer saw would probably break. So I think there's use cases for both of them. Maybe the immediate damage is less than a hammer saw, but you can definitely show aggression. You can use it way more. I mean, let's look at another case. This actually is not a hammer, but Triton versus Glitch, where we saw Triton shoved the blade in the back of Glitch, and it basically self-destructs Glitch. And it was amazing. The amount of damage, I don't know if you've seen it on the Berkeley post-fight report, was a lot of damage. Now imagine we had a hammer sneak its hammerhead in behind the robot, in behind the spinner. That might be the golden shot that puts hammers back on the map, because a hammer saw can't do that. Should not do that. You only do that with a hammer saw when the weapon's already dead.
Yeah.
When you've lessened the degrees of freedom of your design.
Yeah.
When it's just the one, it's just static and just, it becomes very sacrificial.
But I think there's still a future for it. It's just it's just very niche, much in the same way that hammer saw application is also very niche. So we'll see what happens in the future.
Yep. Absolutely.
You never know what's around the corner with the sport. I feel like there's got to be an evolution, out there that someone hasn't tried yet. There's always something that we're always trying to scrape the barrel dry, but there's always something that comes out on the knife. There's always that little bit more that we discover, and it could be just around the corner of the next evolution. So you never know.
That's right. This is all vital information for trying to build an axe in the next few weeks, so it's all good.
There you go.
I've got a lot to build in the next few weeks. We will finish up with, I think this could either be a very long answer or a very short answer, but I'm excited to see which one it is. And it comes from Sasha Margalois. I'm really sorry if I've pronounced it wrong. I saw the name and I thought, I'm glad I'm going to struggle with that one. Do you have any interesting post-championship celebrations that you can share?
Post-championship celebrations. I would say we had a viewing party, and it was wonderful. We had all the Northeast teams, all the Massachusetts teams, and we just had a grand party. We rented out a theater. This is all thanks to Ginger for organizing it. I spent $450 US in pizza.
There you go.
For the teams. But that's kind of what we did. At the event, we didn't get to do anything. And that was unfortunate because the next day we had to get ready for the Golden Bolt. And that was the last day of filming, so there's up to 3 fights, right? For the Golden Bolt final thing. So we had to be ready. We just won the final, and then we have to prepare to
again.
3 fights. Yeah, because you don't have the time to, you don't have the day to get things ready. Like, you need to have it all prepared ahead of time. So we had like a few hours before the pits closed. We were there till the end of till the pits closed, and it's kind of like it was a weird way to celebrate. We didn't really do it.
Celebrating by getting back to work, essentially.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I think we phone called some team members. We took pictures with the thing. We still have we never took it apart. That thing's never coming apart.
Oh, no. the contraption.
So. Yeah.
Yes. As much as we might want to reuse the Tegris eyebrows for next season, this is now such a piece of history. It's going to, whatever happens, eventually when we get a house or something, it's going to sit there. It's just going to be the lawn ornament.
Absolutely brilliant. And so it should be.
With the nut in the middle of it,
It make a good shelf. You kind of park it on the kind of the bent up wedge at the front. It'll look like pretty.
Yeah, you gotta bend it back down. It's all up to here now. It's up in the air.
It'd be a cool, like that. Cool display piece.
Oh yes.
Jamison, thank you so much for your time. I know you've been very busy over the last couple of weeks, and again, massive congratulations. As much as we all have our favourites, I think we're all very, very happy that you ended up walking away with it, because it's just been the progression year on year on year, and it's you've threatened to so many times, but finally seeing yourself and SawBlaze win was pretty special. So massive well done, and enjoy it all.
Thank you very much. Like you said, it's been a long time, and it's really great to see that all the hard work, it all just pays off. I can't stress that enough for anyone who's fighting robots or really doing anything in their life, is that looking for opportunities to improve and then never giving up on the end goal. Setting that end goal, first of all, it all is super important. You need to know where you want to go to get there, and you need to carve out that path and try to find all the ways that you didn't make it before, so that you can get one step further every time. Success isn't instantaneous; it's incremental.
Yeah, well said. And that wraps up the season. What a pleasure!
We made it.
We made it. Oh, we made it. all the way through, and no breaks, right? No breaks at all.
No, not at all.
Jevin might be taking a break.
No, he's somewhere. He's traveling home, I think.
I see.
But yeah, I don't know when we'll be back next. I think we're back next week with something coming up. We'll have to see what happens with that. But yeah, we'll be back whenever Golden Bolt comes back. I guess obviously, Jameson, you've still got some fights to do. We'll have to see how SawBlaze deals with the postseason. Lots to look forward to.
Yeah,
I hope everyone's looking forward to it. Steve has disappeared. I don't know.
Steve has just walks off.
He's vanished. he's been full Thanos snapped out of existence. But I hope everyone's enjoyed the content we brought to you this year. You know, we have worked pretty hard on trying to make sure that we've brought a lot of interesting people to come and chat with, and yeah, hopefully we'll be able to do the same in season.
It's sort of working. Steve.
Kind of, Steve. Kind of. Let's try. With that said, I have been Sam Elliott 64.
I've been Steve the American Killjoy trying to show his favorite SawBlaze sign. There it is.
There we go.
I've been DavidofSmeg and also World of Woodrow for editing purposes.
And Jamison Go is a BattleBots champion.
It's not quite the scale. Oh no.
Yeah.
There it goes.
I'm Jamison Go, your World Championship VII champion.
Yeah.
And the three of us will see you soon for more BattleBots. We'll see you then.